The rain had begun long before Elias Ward reached the first crooked signpost that marked the border of Gleamford. It wasn't the harsh, punishing kind of rain that stung the skin. Instead, it fell with a steady, rhythmic softness, as though the sky were whispering rather than storming. The droplets clung to Elias's coat and hair, and the wetness made the edges of his travel map melt together. Not that he needed it anymore. The town sat quietly in the small valley below, glowing with the dull amber of gas lamps, each one flickering in the same gentle tempo, as if they were heartbeat lights guiding him closer. Gleamford. People in neighboring villages had spoken of it with a mixture of admiration and caution. A town of makers, some had said, meaning it fondly. Others had warned him with narrowed eyes, advising him that the place was odd, that time seemed to behave strangely there. Elias had always dismissed such comments as simple superstition. He had visited stranger towns during his travels, and none had managed to unsettle him. Still, something in the air tonight felt charged. The mist curled around the roofs like it was hiding secrets. He tightened his grip on the strap of his worn leather satchel and started down the path. As he approached, he could hear it, a soft chorus of ticking. It floated on the damp night breeze, not loud, but present, woven into the fabric of the town's atmosphere. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of clocks ticking simultaneously, each one slightly different, yet somehow harmonious. It was the sound of Gleamford breathing. Elias exhaled through a smile. He had been traveling for months, drifting from place to place with no real plan for where to settle next. He was a craftsman by trade. He had learned woodwork, tinkering, and basic mechanical skills from his father. He wasn't a master of any craft, but he knew enough to be useful in almost any workshop. And after so many restless nights spent in cold inns and rented barns, he longed for some place steady, a place where he might stay longer than a few weeks. Perhaps Gleamford could be that place. The moment he stepped between the first two lantern posts of the town's main road, he felt as though he were entering a different world. The buildings were narrow, tall, and warm-colored. Copper gutters lined the roofs, and many houses had small mechanical ornaments in the windows, spinning birds, gently rotating gears, little figurines that bowed when the hour changed. It was charming, almost whimsical. But despite the mechanical beauty, the streets were empty. Elias paused. It was only early evening, not yet 8. He expected to see shopkeepers locking up, or neighbors chatting on porches. Instead, Gleamford seemed to hold its breath. His boots splashed softly as he moved further down the cobblestone street. Only one shop had a light still burning behind its window. A wooden sign swung slowly above the door, creaking as it moved. Harrow and Son, clocksmiths since 1842. Elias stopped beneath it, feeling drawn. Perhaps it was the sound of ticking behind the glass, louder here than anywhere else. Or maybe it was the sense that this place was somehow important. He pressed his hand to the cold handle and pushed open the door. A bell chimed overhead, not a simple ring, but a melody of 3 ascending notes, carefully crafted. The shop smelled of oil, metal shavings, and cedar wood. Clocks of all sizes covered the walls. Cuckoos, pendulums, mantel clocks, and elaborate brass constructions that seemed part sculpture, part timepiece. Some ticked slowly, others clicked with a rapid, insect-like rhythm. Behind the counter stood an old man, hunched over a workbench full of scattered gears. He wore a long apron and round spectacles that magnified his hazel eyes. His white hair stuck out in every direction, as though he had run his hands through it repeatedly. He looked up sharply. "You're late," Elias froze. Pardon?" The old man blinked, then waved a thin hand dismissively. "Not you specifically. People always arrive late. What do you want at this hour?" Elias cleared his throat. "I'm looking for lodging, and work, if there's any to be found. I'm a craftsman, woodworking, metal fixing, small mechanisms. I heard your town is full of odd people and stranger stories." The old man's lips twitched. "Yes, you heard correctly, and you're still here." Elias nodded. "I'm still here." For a moment, the man simply stared at him. Then he sighed, as though conceding to some internal argument. "I'm Harrow," he said, "owner of this shop, Harrow and Son, though the son part is just for the sign these days." There was a weight in that last sentence, but Elias didn't pry. "I'm Elias." "Elias," Harrow repeated, as though testing how the name felt. He adjusted his glasses. "If it's lodging you need, the Lantern Inn still has rooms. 2 streets down, left at the fountain shaped like a dove." "Thank you." "And work." Harrow's eyes narrowed. "Can you read gears?" "I can read anything if it's built with intention," Elias said with a small smile. That earned him a short huff of approval. "Come back in the morning," Harrow said. "Early. If you're still here by then, we'll see about work." Elias nodded gratefully. "I will. But—" Harrow held up one finger. "A warning." The air seemed to shift. "When the clocks stop," the old man said quietly, "go inside, lock your door, do not look out the window." Elias's brows pulled together. "The clocks stop?" "They will. Probably tonight. They always do. 03:12 exactly." Harrow spoke as though reciting a recipe. "Do not be outside when that happens." The ticking of the shop suddenly felt louder. Elias exhaled slowly. "Is this a joke?" Harrow's eyes hardened. "I do not joke about time." Before Elias could respond, the old man turned away and resumed fiddling with the gears on his bench, clearly done with the conversation. A soft chill crawled down Elias's spine. He left the shop with the echo of that strange warning following him out into the street. The Lantern Inn was exactly as Harrow had described, an old building with flower boxes under the windows and a sign that glowed faintly under the lantern above the entrance. A woman with kind eyes and a red shawl welcomed him, gave him a key, and wished him a peaceful night. The inn felt warm and safe, with wooden beams across the ceiling and a gentle fire crackling in the hearth. Guests murmured quietly in the common room, drinking tea or reading. Elias noticed, however, that no one seemed fully relaxed. Their conversations were hushed, their gazes occasionally flicking toward the large grandfather clock standing near the fireplace. He followed their eyes. The clock's hands moved with a steady, calm rhythm. Airweight 27. What was it about time in this place that made people uneasy? Elias took a seat by the fire and opened his satchel. Inside was a small box of tools, a pocket journal, and a half-finished wooden carving, a habit he used to calm his mind during travels. Tonight, though, he couldn't seem to focus. His thoughts kept circling back to Harrow's warning. 03:12. Lock your door. Do not look out the window. He had heard strange warnings before. Villagers in far-off towns had told him tales of forests that whispered and rivers that pulled people under without cause. He had learned to take such stories with a grain of salt. People like to create myths out of things they didn't understand. Still, the clocks ticking behind him felt like something watching. Around 10, Elias retreated to his rented room on the second floor. It was simple but clean, with a small bed, a wooden desk, and a single lantern whose light flickered warmly. He placed his belongings down and moved to the window. From here, he could see the roofs of Gleamford stretching out toward the dark horizon. More than 20 clock towers peaked above the buildings, some tall and narrow, others squat and square. All of them ticked faintly through the walls, creating a layered rhythm that lulled the streets to sleep. As Elias watched, a thin fog rolled through the alleys. There was nothing unusual about fog, but this fog felt oddly deliberate, as though it moved with purpose. He shivered and closed the curtains. He changed into his nightshirt, crawled under the quilt, and blew out the lantern. Sleep came slowly. But eventually, the sound of distant ticking settled him into dreams. He wasn't sure how long he had been asleep when the dream came. He stood at the center of a wide square in Gleamford, but the sky above was colorless, not gray, not black, simply empty. The clocks around him towered impossibly high, their hands racing and shaking, spinning in full circles in seconds. And in the middle of the square stood a girl. She was perhaps 16 or 17, wearing a dress that fluttered even though there was no wind. Her hair was long and dark, her eyes pale as moonlit water. She raised a hand toward him, her expression urgent. "You don't belong in the broken hours," she whispered. Elias took a step toward her. "What does that mean?" But before she could answer, the clock screamed, a roar of grinding gears and shattering glass, and the world collapsed into a wave of darkness. Elias jerked awake. His heart pounded in his chest, and cold sweat clung to his skin. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. But gradually, the shadows of the inn room took shape. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. Dreams were just dreams. He reached for the glass of water on the bedside table and froze. The ticking, it had stopped. All of it, the entire town, all those dozens, maybe hundreds of clocks had fallen silent. Elias's breath caught. He turned toward the desk, where a small decorative clock the innkeeper had provided sat next to his journal. Its hands were frozen at a precise time. 03:12. A chill crawled up his arms. Harrow's warning echoed in his mind. "Lock your door. Do not look out the window." Elias swallowed hard and swung his legs off the bed. The floorboards were cold under his feet as he crossed the room. He checked the door, already locked. He hesitated, then twisted the bolt again just to be sure. The silence in the town was suffocating. Even in the quietest hours of the night, there was always some sound. Wind against roof tiles, distant footsteps, creaking wood. But right now, Gleamford was completely still. Elias backed away from the door and glanced toward the window. The curtains fluttered slightly, though the window was closed. It reminded him of someone breathing on the other side of the fabric. He stared at it. No, he wasn't opening it. He wasn't that foolish. He stepped away, sat on the edge of the bed, and listened to his own heartbeat drumming in his ears. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a faint sound, not ticking, not footsteps, a whisper. It drifted from the street outside, a long, drawn-out exhale, like someone murmuring in a voice too faint to understand. Elias stiffened. The whisper came again, this time clearer, a hiss of syllables that crawled under his skin. Elias. No, it had to be the wind, just the wind sneaking through the shutters. But then something tapped lightly against the window, a gentle, deliberate tap. His breath hitched. Another tap, then another, soft, rhythmic, like knuckles against glass. Elias stood slowly, unable to keep himself from looking. He stepped toward the window. His hand hovered over the curtain. His pulse thundered in his throat. He wasn't going to open it, Maybe, maybe he could take a small peek, just a slight pull at the edge of the fabric, enough to reassure himself nothing was there. His fingers brushed the curtain. "Don't." The voice came from inside the room. Elias spun around. Standing beside his bed, pale in the moonlight, seeping through the curtains, was the girl from his dream. Her dark hair fell over her shoulders. Her expression was urgent, worried even. "You don't belong there," she whispered. "Not in the stillness, not with them." Elias stumbled back, his knees hitting the bedside table. Who are you?" But before she could answer, the tapping at the window turned violent. Not taps anymore, but scratching, scraping, as though nails were dragging across the glass. The girl looked toward the window, fear flashing across her face. "There's no time," she said. "You must stay." A loud crack cut through the room. The window shuddered. Elias's heart slammed against his chest. The scratching grew erratic, desperate. The girl stepped toward him and grabbed his wrist, her hand cold as stone. "Don't look out the window," she repeated. "Whatever happens, don't—" The door rattled violently. Something pushed against it from the hallway, shaking the frame. Elias's breath left him in a trembling gasp. How could anything be in the hallway? Everyone was asleep. The inn was locked. The clocks. Another slam hit the door. The girl tightened her grip on his wrist. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. The scratching, the slamming, the whispers. Silence returned, sharp and absolute. Elias stood there shaking, the girl's hand still wrapped around his wrist. The frozen clock on the desk began ticking again. 1 second, 2, 3. The girl let go. "You're not safe," she whispered. "Not yet." And before Elias could speak, she vanished, fading into the air like mist dissolving under a warm breath. Elias stumbled backward, collapsing onto the bed. His lungs burned as he finally inhaled. He sat there for a long time, staring at the window he hadn't touched. Eventually, the faint ticking of clocks rose again across Gleamford. Joe 3:13. The minute had passed, and somehow Elias's life had changed with it. Elias did not sleep again. He lies awake until the faintest gray creeps across the ceiling, listening to the town slowly rebuilding its usual soundscape. Clock after clock joins the chorus, as if they are quietly pretending nothing has happened. By the time the first soft footsteps sound in the hallway and someone below stokes the inn's hearth, Elias is already dressed. He splashes cold water on his face, trying to wash away the memory of the girl's hand on his wrist, the scratching on the window, the rattling door. His eyes go to the glass. From this side, it looks ordinary. A simple frame, a pane reflecting his tired face. But in the pale morning light, he notices a faint line on the wood of the sill. A thin, jagged mark, like something sharp, has dragged along it. He steps closer. There are 3 marks, actually. Parallel, shallow, but real. Not a dream, then. He forces a breath into his lungs, grabs his satchel, and leaves the room. Downstairs in the common room, the air smells of bread and coffee. A few guests sit hunched over bowls of porridge. No one speaks loudly. Voices stay low, and glances still bounce nervously toward the grandfather clock by the fire, as if checking it is truly still moving. The innkeeper, the woman with the red shawl from last night, looks up when Elias arrives. "Morning," she says softly. "Sleep well?" Elias hesitates. "I slept enough." She studies his face for a moment, her gaze sharp but kind. You heard it, didn't you? Heard what? He asks carefully. The silence, she replies. Some people sleep through it, most don't. Elias grips the back of a chair. What happens at 03:12? Her fingers tighten around the coffee pot she is holding. Nothing that likes to be talked about over breakfast. He waits. After a moment, she sighs and pours him a cup. Sit, eat, she says. Harrow wouldn't want you showing up to his shop on an empty stomach. He's particular that way. You know him well? Everyone here knows Harrow. She sets a plate of bread and a small dish of jam in front of him. He's been fixing this town's clocks longer than anyone living can remember. Elias frowns. How old is he? She shrugs. Old enough to have buried most of his first customers. The way she says it sends another small chill through him. And the silence? He presses. Her eyes flick toward the grandfather clock. Its hands move calmly. 07:14. You're new, she says, so you'll ask things the rest of us gave up asking a long time ago. That doesn't sound like a comfort. It isn't meant to be. She leans against the table. Every few nights, all the clocks in Gleamford stop at the same moment, always the same time, always without warning. We call it the stoppage. The stoppage, Elias repeats. What happens during it? The innkeeper's jaw tightens. Some say nothing happens, that it's just clocks, a mechanical fault no one can seem to fix. She pauses. Others say they hear things, see things, that the town shifts. Shifts how? Like it remembers something it shouldn't, she says quietly. Or like it tries to be in 2 times at once. Her gaze returns to him. We keep our doors locked when it happens. It's safer that way. Elias listens to her choice of words. Safer, not safe. Has anyone ever been outside during the stoppage? He asks. Some, she answers. Not many, twice. He swallows. And Harrow? He told me not to look out the window. He would, she says. He knows more than he says. Always has. She straightens his plate a little, even though it doesn't need straightening. Eat, then go to him. If he's taken an interest in you, you should make sure it's not for nothing. Elias looks at his breakfast. His appetite is thin, but he forces himself to eat. The bread is soft and warm. Each bite feels like anchoring himself in something simple and solid. When he finishes, the innkeeper walks him to the door. What's your name? He asks her. Marla, she says. If you need anything, Elias Ward, you knock on my door before you go to anyone else's, especially at night. He nods slowly. Thank you, Marla. Try not to listen too closely to the clocks, she adds. They like attention. Once you start noticing them, it's hard to stop. He steps out into the morning air, her words echoing behind him. Gleamford in daylight looks almost harmless. Sunlight melts the night's dampness off the cobblestones. Shops open their shutters. Thin threads of smoke curl upwards from chimneys. A bakery spills the warm scent of fresh bread onto the street, and 2 children race after a spinning brass top that hums faintly as it moves. But even with the ordinary bustle, an invisible line seems drawn around certain subjects. When Elias passes a pair of men sweeping a storefront and hears them lower their voices as the town's central clock tower chimes, he knows exactly what they are not saying. He also sees something else, the slight sluggishness in people's movements, the faint shadows under their eyes, as if no one in Gleamford truly sleeps well. Harrow's shop is just as he left it. The sign still creaks. The ticks inside still layer over each other like carefully arranged instruments. When he enters, the melodic door chime plays its 3 ascending notes again. Harrow is already at his workbench, bent over an open clock face with a tiny screwdriver in hand. He glances up when Elias steps in. "You came back," the old man says. "Some leave after the first night." "I'm not afraid of clocks," Elias replies. Harrow snorts softly. "Clocks are the least of your worries." He gestures with his chin to the side of the room. Apron on the hook, tools arranged by size. "If you mix things up, I'll know." Elias crosses to the hook, pulls on a heavy canvas apron, and takes a moment to observe the workstations. There are 3 benches, but only one looks fully in use. The others are neatly arranged, tools lined up with an almost ceremonial precision. Dust lies on one of the benches in a way that suggests it hasn't been touched in a long time. "Harrow and Son," Elias says, nodding toward the sign visible through the window. "Where's the son?" "Not here," Harrow says curtly, "and that's all that matters." Elias lets the subject drop. For the next hour, he listens to Harrow explain the specific quirks of Gleamford's clocks. The town, it seems, takes pride not just in the number of its timepieces, but in their individuality. Each tower is built by different hands, Harrow says, moving with surprising nimbleness between shelves. Old families, most of them. They like to put something of themselves in their clocks. A pattern, a sound, a flaw. "A flaw?" Elias repeats. "Every clock has one," Harrow says. "Somewhere. A choice in the design that isn't about function. It's about memory. Those flaws tell you who made it. Why?" He opens the back of a wall clock and points to a tiny engraved swirl on the gear teeth. "This one? Corbin. He liked spirals. Said they reminded him that time doesn't have to be straight." Elias studies the gear. "Do you agree with him?" Harrow's mouth twists. "I think time does what it wants regardless of what we believe." They fall into a rhythm together. Harrow assigns Elias simple tasks at first, polishing gear sets, reassembling simple mechanisms, realigning escapements. Elias's hands adjust to the delicate work quickly, his movement sure and careful. He feels a familiar calm settle over him, the feeling he gets whenever he is building or fixing something. Still, he can't ignore the other layers of sound in the shop. Under the familiar ticking, there is something else. A faint, distant hum. A vibration that seems to come from beneath the floorboards. It is subtle, more felt than heard, but once he notices it, he can't unnotice it. At one point, Harrow sends him to fetch a box of springs from a cabinet near the back of the shop. As Elias walks, his boots thud on the wooden planks. The hum intensifies for a heartbeat under his step, like a living pulse reacting to his weight. He pauses. The back wall of the shop is lined with tall cabinets and shelves, but there is a narrow section where the wood looks slightly newer, the nails shinier. Elias would almost miss it if not for the faint seam of a trapdoor carved into the floor there, its edges hidden beneath a rug. He stares. "Hurry up, boy," Harrow's voice calls from the front. "Springs don't fetch themselves." "Yes," Elias answers quickly. He grabs the box he needs and returns to the workbench. Harrow doesn't seem to have missed the fact that his glance lingered toward the back. The old man's eyes are sharp, measuring. "We don't keep stock down there," Harrow says casually. "I didn't ask," Elias replies. "Good," Harrow says, "because I wouldn't answer." They work until midday. When the clock over the counter strikes 12 in a clear, chiming pattern, Harrow straightens his back with a grunt. "Go eat," he tells Elias. "There's a cart at the square that sells something pretending to be stew. Good enough." "And you?" Elias asks. Harrow waves a hand. "I'll eat when the clocks are quieter." Elias isn't sure if the old man is joking or not. Outside, the sun has climbed higher. The central square of Gleamford is modest but busy. Stalls line the edges, selling trinkets, bread, and simple goods. In the middle stands a stone fountain in the shape of a dove, just as Harrow said. Water trickles from its wings into a circular basin. Elias buys a bowl of thick stew from a vendor and finds a spot on the edge of the fountain to sit. As he eats, he watches the people of the town move around him. They avoid looking directly at the clock tower that rises over the square, yet their bodies angle toward it, unconsciously aligning their pace with its slow turning hands. "You're new." The voice comes from his left. Elias looks up to see a young man leaning against the fountain, arms folded. He has sandy hair, a scattering of freckles, and a leather tool belt slung low around his hips. A pair of goggles rests on his forehead. "So I've been told," Elias replies. "Elias." "Rowan," the young man says. He nods toward the bowl of stew. "You'll regret trusting that after dark." "It's food," Elias says. "I've eaten worse." Rowan grins. "We all have. Still, if your stomach starts ticking along with the clocks, don't say I didn't warn you." He hops up to sit on the fountain ledge, close, but not too close. "You're working with Harrow," he says. The statement, not question, catches Elias slightly off guard. "How do you know that?" "Small town," Rowan says. "Word travels faster than reason. Also, you smell like oil and brass. That narrows it down." Elias chuckles. "Fair enough." Rowan studies him for a moment. "Most people don't last long with him," he says. "He's particular and stubborn and a little bit backwards." "In what way?" Elias asks. "In the way that he thinks he answers to time rather than the other way around," Rowan replies. "He doesn't just fix clocks, you know. He listens to them, talks to them." "Talks to them?" "Metaphorically," Rowan says, then pauses. "Mostly." He shrugs. "He's been here forever, and ever since the stoppages started getting worse, he's only gotten stranger." "Worse?" Elias catches the word. "How can they be worse?" Rowan's gaze drifts to the clock tower, despite himself. "They used to be rare," he says. "Once a month, maybe. Now it's every few nights, sometimes 2 in a row. My mother says that's how it was before." He stops. "Before what?" Elias prompts. Rowan's jaw works, like the answer is caught behind his teeth. "Before the fracture," he says finally, voice low. Elias's skin prickles. "The fracture?" Rowan glances around them, as if checking who might be listening. The square is busy, but no one seems to pay them much attention. Still, he leans a little closer. "They call it the time fracture," he says. "A long time ago, something happened here, something that messed with the way time moves in Gleamford. Some say the town lost an entire day. Others say it lived the same hour over and over until people went mad." Elias remembers the girl in his room saying you don't belong in the broken hours. "What caused it?" he asks. Rowan shakes his head. No one agrees. They only agree on one thing. After the fracture, the stoppages began. And Harrow started spending more time under his shop than in it. Under his shop, the seam in the floor, the hum. "Have you ever been down there?" Elias asks. Rowan gives him a look, like he just suggested jumping off the clock tower. "No," he says. "I like my mind where it is." "Does anyone know what he keeps there?" "Stories," Rowan says. "Machines. Both, maybe. I only know this. Whenever the stoppage ends, there's a delay before the tower clocks resume. Just a few seconds. But the shop on your corner?" He nods in the direction of Harrow Street. "Its clocks start first, as if waiting for a signal from below." Elias stares into his stew, appetite gone. "And yet," he says, Nobody forces him to stop or leave. Rowan laughs once, a short sound with no humor in it. Leave? You don't push out the one person keeping your town from falling completely into whatever is trying to swallow it. He shrugs. Besides, people are afraid of him. Fear is as good as loyalty, sometimes. They fall silent for a moment. The clock tower chimes the half hour in a gentle, cascading sequence of notes. "Why are you still here, then?" Elias asks. "If the town scares you?" Rowan looks around at the square, at the familiar stalls, the fountain, the narrow houses. "Because Gleamford is home," he says simply. "And home isn't always safe. It's just the place you know how to be scared in." Elias thinks about that. Rowan hops down from the fountain ledge. "If you're staying, you'll see more than you want to," he says. "Just remember that not all warnings are meant to control you. Some are meant to keep you at the edge of something worse." "The edge of what?" Elias asks. Rowan smiles faintly. "Ask Harrow," he says, "if he trusts you, or if he forgets himself enough to answer." He leaves with an easy wave, disappearing into a side street. Elias sits for a moment longer, watching the water spill from the dove's stone wings. The world around him feels normal. Children laugh. A woman haggles over the price of fabric. A dog shakes water off its fur near the fountain and is scolded for it. But under it all, the ticking continues. The clocks in the tower, the ones in the shop, the ones behind every shuttered window. He finishes his stew, stands, and heads back to Harrow's. The afternoon passes in a blur of tiny screws and fine brushes. Elias falls into a steady rhythm, polishing, assembling, checking. Harrow grumbles occasionally, but not in cruelty. More in the way of a man who has spent too many years alone with only machines for company. "Don't force it," he says at one point, watching Elias fit a gear into its housing. "Time doesn't like being shoved. It prefers persuasion." Elias raises an eyebrow. "This is brass, not time." "Brass remembers where it was," Harrow mutters. "It remembers the shape it was first bent into. Same as people." Elias dares another question. "How long have the stoppages been happening?" "Long enough that no one imagines life without them anymore," Harrow says. "Rowan mentioned something called the time fracture," Elias says. Harrow stiffens. "He talks too much," the old man says flatly. "So it's real," Elias presses gently. "Whatever it was." Harrow sets down the tool in his hand, a little too hard. A tiny gear jumps on the workbench. "There are things in this town older than its records," he says slowly. "Older than its graves. Once someone thought it'd be wise to harness that." He looks up, eyes sharp. "It wasn't wise." "Is that what you keep under the shop?" Elias asks. "Whatever they harnessed?" For a long moment, Harrow just studies him. The air between them feels charged, like a wire stretched tight. "I keep many things under this shop," Harrow says finally. "Old blueprints, failed attempts, dust, regrets." He leans closer. "The question you should ask isn't what is down there, Elias Ward. It's why you think you want to know." "Because I don't like being afraid of things I can't see," Elias says simply. Harrow's mouth curls, not quite into a smile. "You think seeing them will help?" "It might. It might kill you faster," Harrow replies. "Curiosity is a blade, sharp, useful, and liable to cut straight through the hand that holds it." He turns back to his work, clearly done talking. Elias returns to his own clock, but his thoughts keep spinning. The hum under the floor pulses in the corner of his perception, in time with something. He can't quite map it. Not to his heartbeat, not to the swinging pendulum near the window. It's like a separate rhythm layered over everything else, too slow to belong to any ordinary mechanism. Late in the afternoon, as the light begins to slant, Harrow finally removes his apron. "That's enough for today," he says. "You can come back tomorrow." He squints at Elias. "If you're not half mad by then." "I've made it through one stoppage," Elias says. "That must count for something." Harrow's gaze flicks to the clock above the counter. "You haven't been through anything yet," he says quietly. Elias unfastens his own apron, hangs it on the hook, and steps toward the door. As his hand touches the handle, Harrow speaks again. "The next one comes tonight," he says, without looking away from the clock he is adjusting. "You'll feel it before you see it." Elias's throat tightens. "How do you know?" Harrow's fingers turn a tiny screw with careful precision. "You learn to hear the gaps," he says. "Go to your inn early. Don't let the town's quiet fool you." Elias opens the door. The little melody above him chimes once more. "And Elias," Harrow adds. "Yes?" Harrow looks up, eyes suddenly very, very old. "If something speaks your name in the stillness," he says, "remember, not everything that knows you deserves an answer." Elias steps out into the street with those words lodged firmly in his mind. That evening, the inn feels even more watchful than the night before. Marla moves with a brisk efficiency, checking windows, reinforcing bolts on doors. The guests retire to their rooms earlier than is polite, each carrying with them a candle and a look that flickers between resignation and dread. "You can stay near the hearth if you like," Marla tells Elias quietly. "Some people say they sleep better downstairs on stoppage nights." "Do you?" he asks. "I don't sleep much at all," she replies, "but the fire reminds me I'm still in this hour, not another." Elias considers staying, but the idea of being in the common room with other people listening to the same silence feels suffocating. "I'll be all right," he says. "If I hear screaming, I'll come down." "If you hear screaming," Marla says, "you lock your door harder." He can't tell if she's joking. In his room, he lights the single lantern and sits at the small desk. The marks on the windowsill look darker now, branching faintly like veins. He opens his journal and tries to write, but his mind keeps circling the same images: the girl's pale eyes, the seam in Harrow's floor, Rowan's mention of the fracture. At some point, the lantern flame trembles without a breeze. Elias looks up. The ticking in the room is still normal. The little clock next to his journal reads 02:47. He stands and walks to the window, sweeping the curtain aside just enough to peek. The town outside is quiet, but not unnaturally so. A cat slips along a rooftop. A single late lamp burns on a distant street corner. He lets the curtain fall and sits back down. Minutes stretch. He feels it before he hears it. The air grows heavy, like invisible hands are pressing against the walls, testing them. The ticking of his desk clock stutters. One beat too long between seconds, then another. He lifts his eyes. 03:11. His pulse spikes. He stands slowly, moves to the door, and checks the lock. Firm. The bolt secure. The ticking falters again. He can almost feel the town bracing. When the hands of the clock click onto 03:12, they stop dead. The silence slams into the room like a wave. Elias inhales sharply, the sound loud in his ears. The silence is different tonight. Last night, it felt empty. Dead. Tonight, it feels tense, as if something is holding its breath along with him. His skin prickles. From somewhere deep below the floor, deeper than the foundation, deeper than the earth itself, it seems. He feels a low, shuddering thrum, like a giant mechanism turning far too slowly. The hum. It is much clearer now. He grips the edge of the desk. A soft creak sounds in the hallway outside. Not violent, not frantic, just footsteps. Careful, measured, moving past his door. He holds his breath. The footsteps pause for a moment just beyond the threshold. Then a faint scratching sound begins. Not at the window this time, but at the bottom of the door. Slow, deliberate. He squeezes his eyes shut. Elias. The voice is not the girl's this time. It is deeper, older, soaked in something like rust. Elias Ward. The way it says his name makes his bones feel too small. He does not answer. The scratching at the door grows more insistent. The wood creaks as if pressed. Open, the voice murmurs. We remember you. We remember all of you. All? His mind claws at that word. Then, underneath the ancient voice, another whisper threads itself. Softer, urgent. Don't speak, it says. The girl. He hears her as clearly as if she stands beside him. Don't answer it, she continues. It can't cross without your permission. Not yet. The scratching falters. The old voice laughs quietly, a sound like grinding gears. You think he can refuse? It asks. They always say that. The first time, and the second, and the third. Elias's hands shake, but he keeps his mouth closed, lips pressed into a hard line. The thrum beneath the town intensifies, a slow, wrenching strain. He imagines enormous gears grinding against each other in the dark, each tooth bigger than houses. Elias, the old voice says again, almost gentle, you do not belong to this minute. You belong to all of them. A tear of pure, inexplicable fear slips from the corner of his eye. The girl's whisper returns, right at his ear. You belong to 1 hour, she says fiercely. Your own, not theirs. Remember that. The scratching stops. The humming below drops in pitch, a sigh of metal and stone. Then, the clock on his desk jerks. The hands leap forward. Tick, tick, tick. 03:13. Sound surges back into the world. The faint creak of the building settling, a dog barking distantly, the rustle of wind finally finding its way under the shutters again. The presence outside his door is gone. Elias sinks to the floor, his legs no longer strong enough to hold him. He stays there for a long time, listening to the clocks reclaim their rhythm. When his heart finally begins to slow, he hears something else. A soft, almost apologetic knock. This time, it comes from the inside of his own skull. You did well, the girl's voice says, small and tired. You lasted longer than most. Who are you? He whispers before he can stop himself. There is a pause. Then, very softly. Someone who didn't last at all. The room feels colder. Why are you helping me? He asks. Because you're not meant to be here, she says. And because if you survive long enough to see what Harrow keeps below, you might have a chance to end this. The words sink into him like hooks. How? He asks, but she is already fading. He feels her presence slip away, like fingers sliding from a ledge. You'll see, she murmurs. If time lets you. Then she is gone, leaving him alone with the clocks. Outside, Gleamford carries on breathing in seconds. Inside, Elias sits on the floor, staring at the seam between door and frame, knowing with absolute certainty that whatever waits behind the stoppages is watching him more closely every time. And somewhere beneath his feet, deep under Harrow's shop and the streets and the fountain with the stone dove, a great machine turns one fraction of a degree closer to something he does not yet have a name for. Morning comes too early. Elias wakes on the floor, his back stiff and his limbs heavy. His mouth is dry, his thoughts sluggish, as though sleep never fully reached him. For a few seconds, he stares at the wooden planks under his cheek, trying to separate the remnants of fear from the normal sounds of the waking inn, clinking dishes downstairs, footsteps in the hall, the low murmur of guests. All ordinary, all alive, all comforting, he pushes himself upright, groaning softly. 0312 felt different last night, sharper, targeted, as if the stillness itself turned its attention toward him rather than the town. He dresses slowly, his fingers trembling. When he goes to splash water on his face, he catches sight of himself in the mirror above the wash basin. His eyes look older, not tired, older, as if he had lived through something that pulled at more than his mind. A faint bruise-like shadow marks the skin near his temple. He touches it, confused. It doesn't hurt. It shouldn't be there. He leans closer. For a split second, something else looks back at him. Something wrong. His reflection is a half-beat out of sync, like it hesitates before mimicking him. He staggers backward. His heart thunders as he stares at the mirror. But now, his reflection matches perfectly. Normal again. "Stop imagining things," he mutters to himself, though the words don't convince him. Downstairs, Marla is fastening new oil lamps onto the wall brackets. She looks up, and her expression softens when she sees him. "You look like you've gone 3 rounds with midnight and lost," she says. "I feel like it," Elias admits. She pours him tea, something herbal, smelling faintly of mint and bark. "Drink this. The town uses it after stoppage nights. Helps settle the head." He takes a long sip. Warmth spreads slowly down his throat. "Thank you," he says. Marla leans on the counter. She studies him quietly. Then, very gently, "It spoke to you, didn't it?" Elias doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Her jaw tightens. "I warned you not to listen too closely." It knew my name," he whispers. "That's how it starts." He shivers. "What is it, Marla?" She shakes her head. "Names give power. You shouldn't have heard yours from anything outside the living." Elias places the tea down, hands shaking. "Every time the clocks stop, I feel it coming closer." Marla hesitates, then steps around the counter and places a hand on his shoulder. "Elias," she says softly, "I don't know why it's paying attention to you. But if Harrow is letting you into his world, then you're already too deep to pretend this is just about clocks." She releases him. "Go to him," she says, "before the day grows old." The air outside is cool, but sunlight washes the streets clean. Gleamford moves with its usual careful energy, but people move a little slower after a stoppage night. Their gazes flick to clock faces more often. Their conversations pause in the middle of sentences for no obvious reason, as if checking that time still flows. On the way to Harrow's shop, Elias notices something he didn't see before. A woman on a balcony hangs laundry over a railing. But the sheet she holds flickers, just for a moment, like an image glitching. It becomes transparent, then solid again. He stops walking. The woman doesn't seem to notice. She shakes the sheet gently, humming. Then the cobblestone near Elias's boot shivers. A crack appears for a heartbeat, revealing something metallic beneath, like gears turning under the street, before the stone seals itself again. Elias's breath catches. Was that real? Or was he seeing through something he wasn't supposed to? He forces himself to keep walking. By the time he reaches Harrow's door, his pulse is unsteady. The little melodic chime above the shop door rings as usual. But inside, something is different. Harrow's workbench is empty. Harrow, Elias calls. No answer. The clocks tick, arranged in chaotic harmony, but the old man is nowhere to be seen. Elias removes his coat and steps further in. The air feels thick, as if the room remembers something heavy that just left. Master Harrow? Still nothing. He moves toward the back wall, to the cabinet with the faint seam in the floor. The hum beneath the shop is louder than before. Not violent, just present, breathing. Elias kneels beside the rug. He hesitates. Then he lifts one corner. A wooden panel beneath reveals a handle. Before he can think about it too much, he takes it and pulls. The trapdoor rises with a soft groan. Cold air rushes up, carrying a metallic smell. Old steel, oil, something faintly electric. Stairs descend into darkness. Elias! The voice behind him nearly makes him fall down the stairs. He spins. Harrow stands at the threshold of the shop, coat dusted with fine metal shavings. His hair seems more disheveled than usual, and his expression is a mix of irritation and exhaustion, but mostly exhaustion. What? Harrow says, stepping forward. Do you think you are doing? Elias swallows. You weren't here. I thought, that, Harrow says sharply, pointing at the open trapdoor, is not for you. Elias closes the trapdoor slowly. Then what's down there? Harrow doesn't answer immediately. His eyes drift to the floorboards, then back up at Elias. You want to know too much, he says. This town eats people like that. You warned me, Elias says. But warnings aren't the iyahadu, same as answers. I can't stop something if I don't understand it. Harrow lets out a long, tired breath. You think this is something you can stop? I don't know, Elias says honestly. But it's coming for me. You saw it. You heard it. Harrow stiffens. You heard your name? Elias nods. Harrow closes his eyes with a pained grimace. Damn. What does that mean? Elias asks. It means, Harrow says, stepping past him to lock the shop door, that the stoppages aren't satisfied with brushing against the boundaries anymore. They're reaching through, testing, looking for places thin enough to tear. He walks to the workbench and places both hands on it, as if steadying himself. So sit, he says finally, before you pass out. Elias pulls up a stool. Harrow remains standing for a moment, breathing slowly. When he speaks, his voice has lost its usual bite. It sounds older, worn. You ever heard of the founders? Harrow asks. Elias shakes his head. Of course you haven't. The town pretends they never existed. Easier than facing what they did. He moves to a dusty bookshelf and pulls out a thick, leather-bound ledger. The cover bears an embossed emblem, a clock face split down the middle. They built Gleamford, Harrow says. Not just the buildings. They built everything. He opens the book. Inside are mechanical sketches, beautifully detailed drawings of gears and towers, but also stranger designs, spirals that fold into themselves, diagrams of repeating patterns. They believed time could be engineered, Harrow says, shaped, contained, protected. Elias frowns. Protected from what? Harrow's mouth tightens. From itself, he flips the page. The founders built a machine, he continues, the largest clock ever attempted, not to tell time, but to hold it, anchor it, keep the hours from drifting after a series of events. Events? Elias echoes. The time fracture, Harrow says. The hour the town lived 13 times. The hour that refused to die. People forgot who they were. Some forgot they existed. Elias's skin chills. The founders trapped that hour, Harrow says. Forced it into stillness. Bound it into a mechanism. Their masterpiece. The thing under your shop, Elias whispers. Harrow nods once, slowly. The heart. Elias feels the weight of the word. But the founders didn't understand what they captured, Harrow says. Time isn't a force that likes being caged, and when it strains against the bars, that's when the stoppages happen. It is almost too much to grasp. Why would it speak to me? Why my name? Harrow studies him with an unreadable expression. You're a traveler, he says. Your life isn't tied to this town. That makes you permeable. Your hours aren't fixed here. Whatever is trapped beneath us senses the difference. Elias's throat goes dry. It wants to pull me into the stillness. It wants something, Harrow says, and want is dangerous when it comes from the wrong side of time. He closes the ledger and sets it down with a heavy thud. There's something else you must understand, he says quietly. No one who hears their name from the stillness lasts long unless someone stands between them and it. Elias hesitates. Stands between them? Like who? You? Harrow looks away. No, he says. Not me. Elias's chest tightens. Then who? A soft voice answers from behind him. Me. Elias spins. The girl from his dreams, from his room, stands just inside the shop door. Not ghostly, not faded. Solid, real. Her dark hair falls straight over her shoulders, her hands clasped together. Elias's breath catches. You, he whispers. She looks at him with pale, gentle eyes. You shouldn't be here, she says. But since you are, I won't let you go alone. Elias stares, stunned. You're real? She offers a faint, sad smile. I'm whatever the broken hours made of me. Harrow sighs deeply, rubbing his forehead. Elias, meet Lysa. Elias stands. You saved me. Twice. Not for long, she says softly. The stillness grows stronger every night. Harrow turns toward her. He needs to understand what's happening. He needs to see, Lysa corrects. Elias's heart thuds. See what? Both Harrow and Lysa look toward the trap door. Harrow's face hardens with grim resignation. Lysa's expression fills with quiet sorrow, and Elias knows the truth even before Harrow says it. The heart, Harrow murmurs. It's waking up. Silence fills the shop, heavy and cold, and beneath their feet, as if responding to its own name, something deep below shifts with a long metallic groan, a sound like a giant stretching after centuries of sleep. Elias swallows. The girl meets his gaze. It feels you, she whispers, and it remembers you. The sound beneath the floorboards fades, but the echo of it lingers in the air, vibrating through the wooden beams of the shop. Elias feels it in his bones, a slow, heavy pulse that doesn't belong to any machine built by human hands. Harrow closes the trap door with a sharp motion, as if afraid the thing below can rise just by seeing the world above. For a long moment, no one speaks. Lysa stands with her hands clasped, pale fingers twisting anxiously. Harrow keeps his back to them, leaning one hand heavily on the counter. Elias watches them both, piecing together truths he only half understands. Finally, Harrow breaks the silence. You shouldn't have come here, he says to Lysa, voice low and strained. She doesn't flinch. He heard his name, she replies softly. I had to. Harrow turns, irritation flaring in his eyes, but beneath it, something else. Fear. Not of Lysa, of what her presence means. You can't keep stepping out of your hour, Harrow tells her. It pulls at the boundaries every time you do. I know, Lysa whispers, but if I don't, he won't survive the next stoppage. Elias steps forward. You said you're something the broken hours made of you. What does that mean? Lysa looks up at him. Her eyes are not truly pale. They are colorless, like diluted moonlight, beautiful and unsettling. I wasn't always like this, she says quietly. I was from Gleamford. I lived here. I had a family, a home. Her voice wavers, and then the time fracture happened. Elias presses a hand to the counter to steady himself. You were caught in it. Lisa nods. My hour didn't end. Everyone else moved on, but I remained, frozen and unmade at the same time. When the founders built the heart and forced the broken hour into it, they anchored me too. They didn't mean to. I don't think they understood what they had trapped. Harrow mutters something under his breath, guilt mixed with frustration. Lisa continues. I'm no longer alive, not the way you are. And I'm not gone either. I'm in between. Elias feels the hairs on his arms rise. You're what the heart made of you. Yes, she says. A remnant. A voice that still remembers being human. He swallows hard. Why help me? Lisa steps closer, her presence strangely warming, despite the cold her appearance suggests. Because you still have choices, she whispers, and choices are the only things time can't steal from you. Harrow clears his throat roughly. We don't have room for riddles. Elias needs clarity. He needs to understand what's happening to him. Lisa nods. Her expression darkens. Then he has to see the heart. Harrow stares at her, stunned. Absolutely not. You know it's the only way, she says gently. I know it's the quickest way to get him killed. Then teach him how not to be killed, Lisa whispers. Elias watches the exchange, bewildered by how naturally they argue, as if this is not the first time or the 10th. Finally, Elias speaks. I'm done being kept in the dark. If something in this town is pulling at me, I need to know what it is. Harrow closes his eyes, jaw tightening. You don't understand, he says. The heart isn't just a machine. It's a prison, and a prison that old doesn't like witnesses. Lisa touches his arm lightly. Harrow, he's already entangled, not by choice. He deserves the truth. Something in Harrow's expression softens, a flicker of defeat, perhaps. He sighs heavily. Fine, but we do this my way. He kneels and lifts the trapdoor again. Cold air spills upward, sharper than before. Lisa steps beside Elias. Be careful, she whispers. The heart listens. He nods, throat tight. Harrow lights a lantern, one larger than the ones in the shop above, its glass walls reinforced with metal braces. Stay close behind me, he instructs. Elias follows him down the narrow wooden stairs, Lisa moving silently behind him. The descent is steep. The further they go, the more the air changes. It grows colder, heavier, and filled with a faint metallic tang. The walls shift from wood to stone, old and uneven. At the bottom of the stairs, a tunnel stretches ahead, carved crudely into the earth. Brass piping runs along the walls, some polished, some corroded, and thin rivulets of condensation trickle along the metal. Harrow raises the lantern. Welcome, he says grimly, to the underworks. Elias steps beside him. The tunnel branches into multiple corridors, each vanishing into darker shadows. The hum he heard above is stronger here, rhythmic, irregular, too slow to be mechanical, too steady to be natural. Lisa moves as though weightless, her steps not disturbing the dust on the ground. This place wasn't built by one generation, Harrow says, voice echoing off the stone. It was built by many, each one trying to reinforce the mistakes of the last. They walk through the main corridor. The air grows colder with each step. Why build down here at all? Elias asks. Harrow gives a short, humorless laugh. Because the founders wanted the heart close to the earth. They believed time is rooted in physical space. They thought that by anchoring the broken hour underground, they were burying it. And they weren't? Harrow looks grim. You can't bury time. You can only corner it. They reach a high, arched chamber. Elias gasps. It is enormous, larger than any underground space he imagined possible in a small town. The ceiling disappears into shadows, supported by massive iron beams. Pipes and gears line the walls like veins running through stone. And at the far end, a structure rises, a towering mechanical mass of gears, wheels, pendulums, and crystalline rods. It is not symmetrical. Its pieces look grown, not constructed. Some sections shine like they were polished yesterday. Others look centuries old. Lights flicker inside translucent tubes, pulses of pale blue racing along them like veins filled with frozen lightning. Elias steps forward, his breath stolen by awe and dread. That, Harrow whispers, is the heart. It hums with a low vibration that seems to vibrate Elias's bones. What is it doing? Elias asks. Trying to escape, Lisa says. He turns to her sharply. Escape? Harrow sighs. Time wants to move. All the time in the world does. But the heart traps 1 hour, the lost hour of the fracture, and forces it into stillness. Every time the heart weakens, that hour leaks into the present. The stoppages, Elias murmurs. Harrow nods. At 03:12, the broken hour tries to break free, and when it does, the town feels it. Elias feels a chill crawl across his spine. It spoke my name. That's because it sees you, Lisa says quietly. It sees the hours inside you that aren't bound to this place. It sees movement, life, possibility. Why me? Elias whispers. Because you're not rooted here, Harrow says. You are outside the heart's influence, a loose thread. Loose thread. The phrase lands heavily in Elias's mind. And loose threads, Harrow adds darkly, are the easiest for a trapped thing to pull. Elias stares at the heart. As he watches, one of the crystalline rods brightens, then dims again, as if breathing. A sudden shiver runs down his spine. Something moves inside the heart, not a gear, not a mechanism, a shadow. Just for a second, he thinks he sees a hand pressed against the inside of one of the glass panels, fingers long and distorted, sliding slowly along the curve. He staggers backward. Lisa catches his arm, steadying him. Her grip is cold, but grounding. You're seeing it, she murmurs. Only those it calls can see that far. What is it? Elias asks, voice shaking. The broken hour, Harrow says, or what's become of it. Lisa's voice is softer. The people lost in it are still there, pieces of them, echoes, shadows without warmth. They press against the walls when the heart weakens. Elias feels sick. The girl who spoke to me? She's one of them, Harrow says bluntly. Elias looks at Lisa. She meets his gaze with sad eyes. I told you I'm not alive anymore, she says. My body died in the fracture, but my hour didn't. He doesn't know what to say. A sudden metallic groan echoes through the chamber. Deep, long, like an enormous gear grinding against stone. Harrow's head snaps up. Not now, he mutters. It's too early. The lights inside the heart flicker. The hum grows louder. Lisa steps closer to Elias. It feels you, she whispers. That's why it stirs. Elias backs away instinctively. I didn't do anything. You existed, Harrow says. It's enough. The heart pulses again, brighter. The crystalline rods vibrate. A crack of pale light runs along one of the tubes. Harrow curses. We need to leave, now. He grabs Elias's arm and pulls him toward the exit. But before they reach the tunnel, the heart emits a sound Elias never imagined a machine could make. A long, low moan, like metal crying. Then a whisper, not loud, not sharp, soft, possessive. Elias. The chamber trembles. Lisa grabs Elias's other arm. "Don't listen," she begs. "Please." But another whisper follows. Elias Ward. His full name. The lights flicker violently. He feels a tug. Inside his chest. Inside his mind. A gravity pulling him toward the heart. He reels, struggling. Harrow yanks harder. "Move!" But Lisa freezes. She stares at the heart, her expression full of horror. "It remembers you too," she whispers. Not to Elias, but to herself. Before Elias can ask what she means, before Harrow can drag him any further, before the heart finishes waking, a section of the crystal wall cracks open from within. Bright, blinding light spills out. A hand, long-fingered, pale, shadow-made, reaches through. Not toward Harrow, not toward Lisa, toward Elias. The hand that emerges from the cracked crystal is not human. Its shape only resembles a hand. Long fingers, jointed, pale, but the substance is wrong. It is not skin, not shadow, not light. It is something between states, flickering like a lantern seen through thick fog. It reaches toward Elias with slow, deliberate intent. Harrow curses under his breath and pulls harder, but Elias feels himself rooted to the stone floor. Not physically. His legs still respond. But something deeper presses down on him, holding him in place with invisible weight. The heart pulses. Lisa releases his arm and steps in front of him. "No," she says firmly, voice trembling. "Not him. Take me if you must, but not him." The hand pauses. It tilts in the air as though studying her, recognizing her. And then, with a slow, horrible grace, it withdraws through the crack and disappears. The light dims. The hum shifts into a low, wounded groan. Then silence. Lisa stands completely still, shoulders heaving, her white-knuckled fists trembling at her sides. Harrow exhales shakily. That was too close. Elias tries to regain his breath. What was that? What did it want? Harrow doesn't answer. Lisa turns toward him slowly. Her eyes hold a sadness he hasn't seen before, something heavy, resigned. "It didn't want you," she says. "It wanted to recognize you." Elias frowns. "Recognize me?" Harrow rubs a hand roughly over his face. The heart remembers those who've been lost to it, those who lived inside the broken hour. "I wasn't alive back then," Elias says. "I wasn't even born." Lisa looks up at him, her expression unreadable. "Maybe not here," she whispers. Elias steps back. "What does that mean?" Harrow cuts in sharply. "Enough. We're leaving. Whatever it learned just now, we can't give it more time." But Elias doesn't move. His mind races. "What do you mean not here?" Lisa hesitates, then looks at Harrow. "Tell him," she says softly. "He deserves that, at least that." Harrow turns away, jaw clenched. Lisa steps forward, her voice gentle. "Elias, there are people who pass through Gleamford without ever feeling the heart. Tourists, traders, even new residents. The heart only notices those with familiar patterns." "What patterns?" he asks. "Patterns in their hours," she says. "Echoes, imprints." "Imprints of what?" "Of time spent somewhere else." She swallows. "Time spent in the stillness." Elias shakes his head. "But I've never been in the stillness before, until now." Harrow speaks without turning. Not physically. Silence falls between them like a dropped stone. Lisa's voice breaks the quiet, barely more than a whisper. "Elias, I think you were meant to come. Here." He feels the words strike him like a tightening noose. Harrow finally turns, eyes dark. "You look like someone," he says quietly. "Someone the heart once held." Someone who didn't escape. Elias stiffens. Who? Harrow hesitates. Lisa answers. Someone who mattered to the founders. A cold shiver wraps around Elias's spine. Mattered how? But before either of them can answer, a deep chime echoes through the underworks. One single toll, not from the heart, from above, from every clock tower in Gleamford. Elias freezes. What time is it? Harrow lifts the lantern. His face is ash gray. Too late. Lisa turns toward the tunnel, eyes wide with fear. The stoppage is early, Harrow finishes. The lantern flickers, the air thickens, and then everything stops, not gradually, not with warning. A single instant passes, and the world around Elias crystallizes. The lantern flame freezes mid-flicker. Lisa's hair halts in the air. A droplet of water falling from a pipe overhead hangs suspended like a glass bead. Jotes 3 part 12. Elias recognizes the silence instantly, but this stoppage is different. It has come early. It has come here, underground, and it is suffocating in its intensity. Harrow stands completely still, mid-step, mid-motion, as if frozen in place. Lisa, too, her face twisted in alarm, her body angled as if she had been about to reach for Elias. But Elias is not frozen. He can move, he can breathe, he can think. What? His voice sounds strange in the stillness, sharp and echoing. He reaches toward Harrow. The old man remains petrified, unmoving. Elias touches his shoulder, cold, solid, lifeless, not dead, just unreachable. He turns to Lisa. Even frozen, she seems aware somehow. Her eyes, still colorless, reflect a faint shimmer, like frost. She looks almost peaceful in the stillness, as if it is the natural state of her existence. Lisa, Elias whispers. She does not respond. He turns in place, heart racing. The underworks feel deeper, darker. The silence presses into his temples, into his lungs, though the very air is made of memory. Then, a whisper, not from behind a door, not from outside a window, from everywhere. Elias Ward. His breath catches. He turns toward the heart. It glows faintly in the center chamber, pale, muted, like a pulse slowed to near death. But from inside it, light moves. A silhouette shifts. Something presses a second time against the inside of the crystalline panel. Not a hand this time. A face. Long, blurred, distorted. Recognizable not by features, but by intention. The thing inside watches him with eyes he can't fully comprehend. You see me, the whisper breathes. Elias steps back. No, he mutters. You can't. You remember me. The words slide into his mind, not his ears. They feel like a hook dragging through old memories. I don't remember you, he insists. Not yet. The crack in the heart widens, glowing white hot. You were mine once. Elias's pulse thunders. Shadows bleed across the crystalline surface, rippling outward like ink in water. Suddenly, something slams into his mind. Not physically, not forcefully, but like a memory pushing through fog. A field, a tower, a clock face shattered on the ground, a hand in his, a girl's laugh, Lisa's laugh, echoing from long ago. Elias clutches his head, stumbling forward with a cry. No, no, I've never... The whisper sharpens. You lived an hour inside me. His stomach drops. 1 hour. The fracture. Lost an hour. The stillness. You belonged to me. He stares at the heart, horrified. Lisa was caught in the broken hour. Others were caught, dozens, hundreds. And something trapped him too? When? Elias whispers. When was I here? The presence inside the heart shifts. Long before you were born. His breath freezes. How is that possible? The whisper trembles with something that might be longing or hunger. Time breaks, time bleeds, time steals. You fell into me through a fractured seam, and I held you. He staggers backward. No, my life, my hours. You forget, because you left. A pause. But you left a piece behind. Elias feels ice crawl up his neck. A piece inside. The heart glows brighter, throbbing like a heartbeat trying to restart. Come closer, Elias Ward. He shakes his head violently. No. You were mine once. You can be again. The crystalline wall begins to crack outward, tiny splinters of light dripping like molten glass. Elias backs toward the tunnel, but the silence thickens, pushing him forward like a hand on his spine. Stop, he shouts. You cannot flee your own lost time. His breath comes in sharp bursts. He has to run. He has to move. He turns toward the tunnel and collides with someone. The world jerks. A hand grabs his wrist. A familiar voice gasps. Elias, don't look, don't listen, don't breathe it in. Lysa, moving, not frozen. Her form flickers faintly, as though resisting the stillness, fighting through it. You're not supposed to be awake, she hisses, pulling him backward. It means it's already taking hold of you. What did it mean? Elias pants. A piece of me left behind. What does that mean? Not now, she snaps. If you stay here, it will finish what it started. She drags him down the tunnel, her grip cold but strong. Behind them, the heart pulses angrily. The whisper rises, furious now. Lysa! She flinches but doesn't stop. Move, Elias! The corridor shimmers. The stone warps around them. The heart screams, a metallic grinding shriek. Then, the stillness collapses in on itself. Sound returns in a wave. A gasp from Harrow, a clatter of pipes, a distant ringing, air rushing back into lungs. Lysa's form flickers. She collapses. Elias catches her just before she hits the ground. Harrow rushes toward them, eyes wild. What happened? What did you do? Before Elias can speak, Lisa answers in a trembling whisper. He remembered. Harrow freezes. No, impossible. Elias looks between them, breathless, terrified, lost. What did I remember? He asks. Lysa lifts a shaking hand and places it against his chest, over his heartbeat. You weren't just a traveler, she whispers. You were one of us. And the heart still pulses behind them, its glow returning, hungrier than ever. Lysa lies trembling in Elias's arms, her form flickering faintly like a candle's reflection on rippling water. Harrow crouches beside them, his expression a mixture of dread and unwilling recognition. She said I was one of you, Elias murmurs, his voice hoarse. What does that mean? Harrow doesn't answer right away. He presses 2 fingers to Lysa's wrist, though checking her pulse makes no real sense. She has no heartbeat to measure. Still, the gesture seems habitual, almost fatherly. Lysa's eyes flutter open. Not here, she whispers. Not in the underworks. Too close. Harrow nods sharply. She's right. Up, both of you. He helps Elias lift her gently to her feet. She manages to stand, though she wavers like her edges are made of mist. They ascend the stairs slowly, emerging back into the familiar clutter of the clock shop. The normal ticking of clocks feels impossibly loud after the suffocating stillness below. Harrow locks the trap door behind them, then locks the front door as well for good measure. When he finally speaks, his voice carries a weight Elias hasn't heard before. Sit, he orders. Elias lowers Lisa onto a wooden stool, then sits across from her on another. His hands won't stop shaking. Harrow remains standing, as if sitting would collapse something inside him. Lysa gathers herself and touches Elias's arm lightly. I'm sorry, she whispers. You shouldn't have learned this way. Elias stares into her moon-pale eyes. Learn what? What am I? For a long moment, neither of them answers. Harrow walks to the window and closes the shutters, blocking the morning light. Then he returns to the center of the room and folds his arms. You asked earlier why the heart calls you by name, he says. Why the stoppages follow you. Why the stillness recognized you. Elias nods, gripping the seat. Harrow exhales. It's because you were born here. Elias's heart stutters. That's impossible. I grew up 100 miles away. My parents told you what they could without losing their minds, Harrow says flatly. But they weren't your first family? Elias shakes his head violently. No, you're wrong. Lisa reaches out, her fingers brushing the back of his hand, cool and steady. Elias, I knew you before the fracture. He stares at her. How? How could you have known me? Her eyes glisten with something like hurt. Because you were my brother. The room tilts. Elias grips the edge of the stool to keep from collapsing. Brother. The word carves itself through him. That's not possible, he whispers. I don't remember any. Memories can be taken, Lisa says softly. Hours can be stolen. Lives can be rewritten. Harrow steps closer, his voice steadier now. Your parents weren't lying when they raised you. They simply didn't know the whole truth, Lisa continues. During the fracture, when the hour folded in on itself over and over, people were pulled into the stillness. Some vanished, some were trapped, and some, she touches her own chest, were caught in both states and became what I am. Elias swallows hard. But I escaped. Yes, she whispers, but not entirely. She looks at Harrow, urging him silently to finish what she cannot. Harrow folds his arms tightly across his chest, as if bracing against a storm only he can feel. When the founders built the heart, he says, they tried to draw the broken hour into one place, to contain it, but time does not collapse neatly. It tears. He meets Elias's eyes. And you, Elias, you slipped through one of those tears. Elias feels the breath leave his lungs. You fell out of the fracture, Harrow says, into another hour, another time, another town, a child without a past, a blank space carrying only fragments. Lisa's voice is barely a whisper. We thought you were dead. Everyone did. Elias presses a shaking hand to his forehead. But how? How could I be a child? How could I just appear? Broken hours do strange things, Harrow says. They can birth moments that shouldn't exist. They can spit out time in the wrong direction. They can deliver a person into the world as if they had always been there. Elias tries to breathe, but each inhale feels narrower. Lisa grips his hand tighter. You were 8, she says softly. You had a wooden bird you carved yourself. You liked climbing the clock tower steps, even though I hated them. Her voice breaks. You were my brother, she repeats. And then, in one loop of the fracture, you didn't come back down. Elias feels something crack deep inside him. I don't remember, he whispers. You wouldn't, Harrow says. The hour that held you was stolen. You were torn out of your timeline, dropped into another. Lisa closes her eyes. And the heart has been calling for you ever since. Silence swallows the shop. Elias can barely hear the clocks anymore. Finally, he forces the words out. It wants me back. Lisa nods slowly. It wants to reclaim the hour it lost. The one it believes belongs to it. You. Harrow moves behind his workbench, pacing like a trapped animal. When you entered Gleamford, you brought your broken hour with you. Your presence wakes the heart more each day. Elias shudders. That's why the stoppages are getting worse. Yes, Harrow says. Time recognizes its missing piece. Lisa's voice trembles, and the heart recognizes its prisoner. Elias looks at her sharply. You think I was imprisoned? She hesitates. You were stuck in the loop with me, she says. Only, you found a way out. I didn't. Her eyes shine with unshed tears. I saw you disappear. I thought the stillness swallowed you whole. But now I know it threw you somewhere it couldn't reach. He feels his stomach twist. And now it wants to drag me back. Harrow stops pacing. Not drag only. It wants to complete itself. Time doesn't like being incomplete. It becomes hungry. Elias presses his palms to his eyes. Why didn't the founders tell anyone? Why didn't they fix it? Harrow snorts. They died. Some in accidents, some in silence, some simply faded. Faded? Elias echoes. Living too close to the broken hour burns people, Harrow says. It eats at them slowly, plucks them out of their own stories. A cold dread settles in Elias's chest. So what happens now? He whispers. Lisa looks terrified to answer. Harrow answers for her. You learn to defend yourself, he says. Elias frowns. Defend myself against time? Against what it sends after you, Harrow replies. The whispers, the faces in the stillness, the hands, they are only beginnings. The heart won't stop, Lisa adds. Not now that it knows where you are. Elias looks between them. Then what do I do? Harrow steps closer, voice low and grave. You train, he says. You learn to resist the stillness, to anchor yourself to this hour, not the broken one. Lisa nods. If you don't, the heart will take you in the next stoppage. Elias swallows. And if I do learn, what then? Harrow's gaze turns dark. Then we show you how to destroy the machine. Elias's breath catches. Destroy the heart? Lisa's whisper is barely audible. Before it destroys you, he shakes his head. But won't that collapse time itself? No, Harrow says, but it will release the hour trapped inside. Elias's gaze snaps to Lisa. Release you? Her expression is unreadable. Maybe, or maybe it will erase me completely. A pause. But it must be done. Harrow lifts his lantern and sets it on the counter. We begin tonight. Elias stares at him. Tonight? Why so soon? Harrow's face hardens. Because the heart won't wait. As if on cue. A clock on the shelf behind them stutters. Tick, to, tick. Every clock in the shop hesitates. Lisa looks up sharply. It's already starting, she whispers. We have less time than we thought. The shop feels suddenly too small, too full of ticking that no longer sounds harmless. Elias sits stiffly on the wooden stool, Lisa beside him, and Harrow pacing like a metronome, wound too tight. Training, Elias repeats slowly. What does that even mean? How do you train against time? Harrow stops pacing. You can't fight time, he says flatly, but you can learn not to drown in it. Lisa nods. There are rules in the stillness, things you can use. Rules, Elias echoes. Something like survival guides for impossible spaces. That's as good a description as any, Harrow replies. He pulls out a drawer beneath the counter and removes a heavy object wrapped in cloth. He places it on the table between them and slowly unwraps it. A pocket watch, old silver, engraved with swirling patterns. It pulses faintly, as if breathing. Elias shivers. That doesn't look like an ordinary watch. It isn't, Harrow says. It measures resonance, the rhythm of your hours. Every person has one, a unique pattern. When you enter a stoppage, the resonance weakens. But yours, he nods at Elias, yours shifts. Shifts how? Lisa answers softly. It bends. Elias frowns. Is that bad? It's dangerous, Harrow says simply. It means the stillness can reach you more easily. But it also means you can reach it. The idea chills Elias more than the coldest wind. Harrow places the pocket watch in Elias's hands. It feels warm, as if responding to his touch. He continues. There are 3 rules you must learn before tonight. Elias's heartbeat quickens. Tonight? I thought training started tonight. It does, Harrow says. Inside the stillness. The room goes silent. Elias swallows hard. You're sending me into the stoppage on purpose? Lisa's voice is soft, but steady. Not alone. Elias looks at her sharply. You're coming? She nods. I can move in the stillness, most of the time, enough to guide you. Harrow clears his throat. Before you even step foot in that hour, you need to understand this. He lifts one finger. Rule 1, do not trust what speaks with your voice. Elias blinks. My voice? The stillness echoes, Lisa explains. It uses things it has touched, memories, shadows, pieces of ours. She hesitates. And it will try to mimic you, to call to you the way it knows will make you answer. Elias's skin prickles. Why? To get you to respond, Harrow says. Because a response is permission. Elias shivers. Permission for what? To pull you deeper. Lisa squeezes his hand, her touch cool and steady. If you hear yourself calling, cover your ears. Don't look toward it. He nods slowly. Harrow raises a second finger. Rule 2, never look directly at the still. The still? Elias asks. Lisa flinches. The frozen people, the objects caught in loops, the seconds that haven't finished breathing. Staring at them too long gives them weight. What kind of weight? Harrow answers grimly. The kind that drags you inward. So, don't stare, Elias summarizes, at anything frozen. Not for more than a heartbeat, Harrow says. Your mind isn't meant to make sense of impossible moments. Elias nods again, feeling the weight of each word settle over him. Harrow raises a third finger. Rule 3. If it knows your name, say nothing. Elias's chest tightens. It already knows my name. Exactly, Harrow says, which means it will try harder. It will whisper, bargain, plead, threaten. His voice grows harsher. But if you speak your name in the stillness, even once, it will take you. Elias's mouth goes dry. How? Lisa answers softly. Speech anchors you. It binds your hour to the still one. And the heart, it collects anchors. A tremor runs through Elias. So if I speak, you lose yourself, Harrow finishes. Elias feels cold from the inside out. The pocket watch in his hands pulses once, as if echoing his fear. Lisa takes Elias's fingers in hers. But you won't be alone, she repeats. I'll be with you. I can move in the stillness. I can guide you through it. He looks at her. Why? Why help me so much? She hesitates, and then, barely audible, because I don't want to lose you again. His breath catches. Before he can speak, Harrow clears his throat with pointed urgency. It's time you saw something only a few living people have seen. He walks to the back of the shop and grabs a brass key from a hook. He unlocks a small door that Elias had assumed was just a storage closet. Instead, inside is a narrow room lined with shelves. On each shelf rests a clock, each one stopped at the exact same time. Arrow 3:12. The sight makes Elias's stomach clench. What are these? He asks quietly. Harrow steps inside, lantern raised. Memories, he says. The founders kept these. They marked every stoppage for years. They tried to find a pattern, tried to fix it. Elias runs a hand along the nearest clock. Why keep them? He asks. Because once an hour breaks, Harrow says, it never forgets how. Lisa enters behind them, her eyes scanning the clocks with a hollow familiarity. We used to come here, she murmurs. Before the fracture, you and I, we'd try to guess when the next stoppage might come. Elias's heart tightens painfully. I wish I remembered, he whispers. She touches his cheek gently. I'm glad you don't. Some memories are kinder when forgotten. Harrow clears his throat again. There's another reason you're here, something you need to see. He moves to the far wall and pushes aside a dusty curtain. Behind it, a large mirror stands, old and tarnished, its surface rippled like warped glass. The air around it chills instantly. Elias steps back instinctively. What is that? Lisa's expression turns sorrowful. A still mirror, she says, a remnant from the fracture. It doesn't reflect the present, Harrow nods. It reflects the broken hour. Elias's voice tightens. Why bring me to this? Because you need to recognize what the stillness sees in you, Harrow says. You must see yourself the way it sees you. Elias swallows. And how's that? They don't answer. Harrow gestures. Look, Elias hesitates. Lisa nods softly. I'll stand with you. He steps closer, pulse racing, and lifts his eyes to the warped mirror. At first, he sees only himself. Tired eyes, rumpled hair, lantern shadows across his face. Then, the image flickers. Once, twice. The reflection blurs, stretches, reforms into something younger. A boy, 8 years old, dark curls, a wooden bird in one hand, a shy smile. Elias's breath shatters. That's me, he whispers. The reflection shifts again. Lisa appears beside the boy, but not the pale Lisa he knows now. Alive, warm, laughing, reaching for his hand. Then, the scene stutters. The boy jerks, fades, then vanishes entirely into swirling fog, leaving only Lisa behind, reaching into emptiness. She gasps beside him in real life. Elias feels the floor tilt. Stop, he chokes. Please. Harrow covers the mirror. Enough. Elias grips his forehead. I was here. I was really here. Lisa wipes at her eyes. You were, and the hour stole you, and the heart remembers. The pocket watch pulses violently in his hands. Harrow steps forward, voice iron steady. Tonight, Elias Ward, you go into the stillness not as prey. He places a hand on Elias's shoulder, but as someone who belongs to more than 1 hour. Lisa's voice follows, soft but fierce. And I will make sure you come back. Elias looks at them both, fear and determination warring in his chest. When? Harrow answers. Tonight, when the clocks stop. The words fall like a verdict. Elias closes his eyes. He feels the pulse of the pocket watch. He feels Lisa's hand slip into his. He feels the weight of every hour he never knew he lived. And when he opens his eyes, he is ready, not fearless, but ready. The rest of the day moves like water through thick glass, slow, distorted by the knowledge of what's coming. Elias spends the hours pacing the small room Harrow offers him behind the shop, trying to swallow the knot forming in his stomach. Outside, Gleamford continues its quiet routines. Children chase brass wind-up toys in the streets. A baker brushes flour from her hands as she opens her stall. Older men mutter about weather patterns and shipments of copper wire. No one suspects that, beneath their feet, time murmurs and watches. Inside the shop, Harrow prepares. He sharpens tools, refills lanterns with oil, and polishes strange devices Elias doesn't have names for. Some look like compasses, except their needles spin aimlessly. Some look like music boxes, except they make no sound. Every so often, he studies Elias with a troubled look, but he never voices what's behind it. Lisa stays close. She moves quietly through the shop, her form flickering only when the lantern light hits her at odd angles. She seems exhausted, but determined. Elias notices that she grows colder the longer she remains in the living hours. He keeps wanting to ask if it hurts her to stay here, but each time he opens his mouth, she gently shakes her head as if telling him not to worry, as if she's done this before. At dusk, Harrow finally wipes his hands on a cloth and calls them both to the center of the shop. "It's almost time," he says. The light outside is fading. A warm gold bleeds into lavender, then into deep blue. The shop's lanterns glow more sharply now, turning the brass gears on the walls into constellations of metal stars. Elias sits on the stool beside Lisa. He feels the pocket watch pulse faintly in his palm. Each beat aligns with his heartbeat, though sometimes, just barely, it slips out of sync, as if adjusting to something beyond him. Harrow closes the shutters. The last sliver of daylight disappears. "What happens first?" Elias asks. "You feel it," Harrow says. "The stillness creeps. It always starts at the edges." Lisa nods. "The world grows heavy. The air thickens. Sounds stretch. You'll know." Elias swallows. "And after that?" Lisa takes his cold hand in hers. "After that," she murmurs, "you breathe with me." His pulse steadies at her touch. Harrow's voice interrupts gently. "Before we begin, Elias, one last rule." Elias looks up. Harrow's expression is uncharacteristically soft, almost paternal. "When the stillness thickens," he says, "you will feel fear, not ordinary fear, deep fear, instinctive, like drowning. You must remember, fear belongs to the broken hour, not to you." Elias nods slowly. "So I ignore it?" "No," Harrow says. "You acknowledge it, and then step forward anyway." Elias forces a breath. "Okay. Good," Harrow murmurs. Then we wait. Silence settles between them. The clocks tick. The lanterns sway. Outside, the wind hums faintly along the shutters. Minutes pass. Elias's pulse grows louder in his ears. Lisa watches him, her pale eyes soft, with something like aching familiarity. "You're shaking," she whispers. "Only a little," he says. "You were always like that," she replies gently. "When we used to climb the clock tower stairs as children." He huffs a soft, incredulous laugh. "I can't imagine I was ever afraid of something as simple as stairs." "Oh, you were terrified," she says with a faint smile. "But you climbed anyway, because I asked." His chest tightens. "And now?" She squeezes his hand. "And now, I'm asking again." He nods. And then, he feels it. It begins at the edge of the room. A stillness like held breath. A heaviness like deep water. A soft distortion, as though the air thickens just enough to resist movement. Harrow stiffens. "There, do you feel it?" Elias nods, throat tight. The clocks tick, 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 and then the sound drags. A single tick stretches like a fabric being pulled beyond its weave. Lisa takes Elias's other hand. "Close your eyes," he does. "Breathe slowly, don't rush, don't fight." He follows her voice. His breath steadies. The world around them begins to slow. The lantern light thickens into golden syrup. The ticking stretches further. Every muscle in his body protests, like he's pushing through invisible mud. "It's coming," Harrow whispers. Elias feels something cold glide along the floorboards, brushing against his ankles like mist with intention. He shudders. The clocks gasp, then fall silent. The stillness arrives. When Elias opens his eyes, the world is frozen. The lantern flame is motionless, caught mid-flicker. Dust motes hang in the air like stars pinned in place. Harrow is still, his hand lifted, caught in a moment that hasn't finished existing. Only Lisa moves. Her form glows faintly in the stillness, like she is made of a different hour. This is where we begin, she whispers. Elias tries to stand. His legs feel slow. Not heavy exactly, but delayed, as if each movement travels through syrup before reaching his muscles. Lysa steadies him. Your body is learning. Don't force it. He nods. The pocket watch glows in his palm, warm and pulsing steadily. What now? He asks. We walk, she says simply. They move toward the front of the shop. Elias feels the air resist him. Each step is like pressing forward through a dream he's not sure he fully controls. Objects seem sharper, shadows more curious. Every clock face stares at him with its hands frozen at 03:12. The moment feels both endless and fragile. Stay close to me, Lysa murmurs. Elias nods. They step outside, and the stillness reveals its true face. Gleamford is frozen mid-breath. A cat hangs in mid-air, leaping between two rooftops. A lantern light outside the bakery is suspended in a perfect teardrop shape. Wind-blown leaves hover weightlessly, each paused in its descent. Water spilling from a rooftop gutter forms a glassy arc. Elias's breath catches. It's beautiful. Lysa's voice is quiet. It is, and it's deadly. He swallows. Where do we go? Through the hour, she says. To its center. She leads him down the street. Each movement feels slightly easier now, though the air still clings to him like something watching, waiting. They turn a corner, stepping into the town square. Frozen townsfolk stand mid-step. A woman's scarf billows behind her, trapped in a wind that no longer exists. A child stands pointing upward, his eyes wide but lifeless in the pause. Elias takes a step toward the fountain, mesmerized. The water is frozen mid-splash, droplets like crystal stars caught above the surface. Lysa catches his arm. Don't look too long, she warns. Rule 2. He forces his gaze away. Sorry, she gives him a sad smile. It's natural. I used to forget too. Used to. Once, when she was alive. He looks at her. What does the center look like? Lysa's expression shifts. You'll know it when you see it. They walk onward. Every frozen face feels like a portrait carved into time. Elias senses eyes on him, though none move. The stillness hums faintly around him, like something curious, something aware. At the western side of the square, Lysa abruptly stops. Elias collides gently with her shoulder. What is it? She points. Elias feels his blood run cold. There, in the center of the cobblestone road, stands a version of himself, frozen, paler, blurry around the edges, as though air struggles to contain him. A perfect replica down to the shape of his shoulders. Elias's pulse spikes. What is that? Lysa's grip tightens painfully on his wrist. Rule 1, she whispers. Do not trust what speaks with your voice. But it's not speaking, as if triggered by the words. The frozen version of Elias turns its head. Too smoothly, too sharply, its eyes meet his, empty, reflective, wrong. Elias staggers back. The thing opens its mouth, and his voice emerges, soft, calm, inviting. Elias, it says, with his tone exactly, but without breath. Come here. Elias freezes in terror. Lysa steps between them. Don't answer, she warns sharply. Don't move. The double tilts its head, the motion jagged. Elias Ward, it says. You belong. Elias shudders. The voice feels like a cold hand slipping inside his skull. Lysa extends one hand, palm out. Return to your hour, she commands. The double flickers. Its form stretches, distorts, thins like smoke, and then vanishes. Elias collapses to his knees, gasping. What was that? He stammers. An echo of you, Lysa whispers. A shadow of the hour you lost. They appear when the heart stirs. Elias wipes his face. It felt like it wanted to absorb me. It did, Lysa says. But you resisted. That matters. She helps him to his feet. Elias grips her hand tightly. Why does it sound exactly like me? He asks. Because it remembers the child you were, she says. And it knows the man you are becoming. He shivers. What next? He asks. Lysa turns toward the far street. The center, she whispers. We're close. They walk deeper into the frozen city. The stillness grows thicker, the air colder. A faint glow pulses ahead, beyond the narrow alleyway. Lysa stops. Her voice trembles. Elias, she whispers. Whatever you see next, don't run. He nods. They step into the glow. The stillness changes. It deepens, sharpens, grows almost liquid. And there, in the center of an impossible circle of light, stands a doorway formed of crackling white fractures. A doorway made of broken time. A tear in the hour. A breach. And from within it, a whisper rises. Welcome home. Lysa grips Elias's hand. He breathes once, twice, and steps forward. The fracture glows in front of them like a wound in the world. Light bleeds outward in thin, trembling lines. Not warm light, cold, white, the kind that belongs to lightning flashes or the last breath before dawn. The edges hiss faintly, small sparks drifting like frost. Elias feels the pull instantly, a pressure in his chest, a tightening of his lungs, a whisper at the base of his skull. Lysa squeezes his hand. You don't have to do this, she whispers. Yes, he breathes. I do. Because the truth has been circling him like a hawk since the day he entered Gleamford. Something inside this hour belongs to him, and something inside it wants him back. Lysa steps in front of him, her pale form shimmering faintly in the distortion. Elias, listen to me. She holds both his hands now, her face so close he could count the tiny fractures of light in her eyes. When we cross, you'll feel pain, memories coming at the wrong angle, moments sharp as glass. They do that on purpose, so you don't know which ones are true. Elias nods shakily. And worst of all, she says, swallowing, you will see things you once lived, things you never finished living. You must stay with me, no matter what you see, no matter who calls your name. Her voice trembles. He realizes she's terrified for him, not for herself. He cups her hands between his. I won't leave you, he says. She gives him a heartbreaking smile. You already did, once. Before he can respond, the fracture widens. A single ringing chime splits the air, not from a clock, from the hour itself. Lysa inhales sharply. It's opening. The town around them flickers. Shadows stretch. The frozen world leans toward the tear. Elias steps forward. The white cracks surge outward and swallow him whole. The world breaks, not like glass shattering, more like water reversing its course, like time folding in on itself, like gravity breathing inward. Elias falls, but not downward, sideways, upward, within. Voices rush by him, too fast to grasp. Hands brush his shoulders, too light to feel. Images flicker under his eyelids like lightning behind clouds. Then he hits solid ground. Hard, his lungs seize. He gasps. The air is cold, bitter, thin. He forces himself upright and freezes. He knows this place, even if he doesn't remember it. He stands on a grassy hill overlooking Gleamford, not the modern one, the old one, the one from before the fracture, the one with fewer houses, fewer towers, fewer scars. Sunlight glows over the rooftops. Children chase each other through the market. Smoke curls from cozy chimneys. It is peaceful, whole, alive. His heart stutters painfully. He feels a tug deep in his chest. Recognition without memory. Elias. The voice is soft. familiar in ways that hurt. He turns. A child stands behind him. 8 years, old, dark curls, bright eyes, a wooden bird in his hand. Elias's breath catches. This is him, the boy he used to be, the boy he can't remember, the boy the heart remembers instead. The child tilts his head. "You look different," he says. Elias's throat closes. "So do you." The boy smiles. "You used to climb the clock tower with me." Elias's chest aches. "I know." "Do you remember how high we went?" the boy asks brightly. "Do you remember how the hours sounded from up there?" Elias steps closer. "I want to." The boy's smile fades. "You're not supposed to be here," he says gently. Elias swallows. "I'm here to understand." "You can't." The boy's expression turns sad. "You're not built for this hour anymore." Elias kneels in front of him, heart twisting. "Lisa told me you were lost." The boy's eyes flicker. "Lisa." He looks away toward the distant rooftops. "We used to race to the bakery," the boy whispers. "She always won. She was faster than both of us." Elias's breath trembles. "I don't remember that." "You did," the boy says. "Once." He steps back. "You should go," he adds, softer now, "before it sees you." "It?" Elias echoes, but the boy is already turning toward the town. "The hour," he whispers, "the one that broke, the one that kept me, the one that kept all of us." Elias feels the air grow colder. The sunlight dims. A shadow passes across the ground. The boy's eyes widen in fear. "It's coming!" He backs away fast. "Elias, listen to me. Don't talk to it. Don't look at it. Don't listen when it uses my voice." Elias's breath stops. The wind around them distorts like a warped melody. The boy shouts, "Please, run!" His voice cuts off like a snipped thread. He flickers and vanishes. Elias staggers backward, breath shaking. The hour trembles. A long ripple moves across the world, bending rooftops, distorting streets, warping sunlight. Then a shape pulls itself out of the distortion. Not human, not shadow, not time. Something in between. It has no face, only the shape of one. A hollow oval of shifting silver, a distortion where eyes should be. A mouth-like shape opens, not real, not flesh, an absence. Elias forces himself still. Rule 3. If it knows your name, say nothing. The thing tilts its head, and a voice emerges. His voice, not adult, not child, something in between. Elias. His ribs tighten painfully. "You left me." Elias squeezes his eyes shut. He wants to run. He wants to scream. He wants to curl into himself and vanish. But Rule 1 holds him in place. Do not trust what speaks with your voice. The creature steps closer. The ground warps beneath its feet. "I waited for you." Its voice is almost tender, and all wrong. "Don't answer," Elias mutters to himself. "Don't answer." "Elias!" A new voice, sharp, desperate. "Lisa." She rushes toward him, her form flickering violently in the broken hour. She looks almost transparent here, as if the hour drains her strength. "Don't look at it," she cries. He tries. But the creature is inches from him now. It leans close, its voice a whisper that freezes his blood. "You don't belong out there," it breathes. "You belong to me." Elias's heartbeat stutters. He feels his knees weakening. Lisa grabs his shoulders. "Look at me," she shouts. "Only me!" He forces his eyes away from the creature, and suddenly, light bursts around them. Lisa pulls him backward, away from the creature's reach. But the creature is not angry. It simply tilts its head and whispers, "You took something from me, Elias Ward, and I want it back." The ground rips open. The world collapses, and Elias falls, out of the hour, out of the memory, out of the fracture, back into darkness, back into the stillness, back into himself. He wakes, gasping. Pain shoots through his lungs like freezing air. He's lying on the cobblestones of Gleamford's frozen square. Lysa kneels over him, face pale with terror. "Elias! Elias! Look at me! Breathe! Please breathe!" He drags in a ragged breath. The stillness trembles around them. Something is coming. Something is awake. He grips Lisa's arm, voice breaking. "I saw it." Lisa's eyes widen. "What did you see?" Elias shivers violently. "I saw the hour that took me. And it wants me back." Lisa's face collapses into fear. Before she can speak, the clocks around them twitch. The stillness shudders. A whisper slides through the frozen air. "Elias!" The fracture behind them flares open again. Bright, hungry, alive. The hour is coming after him. The fracture behind them widens. White cracks split through the stillness like lightning frozen in glass. Elias scrambles to his knees as light spills out. Cold, sharp, humming with hunger. Lisa pulls him backward. Get up, please." "I'm trying," Elias gasps, legs trembling. But the stillness is thick around him, resisting every movement like invisible mud. The whisper returns, closer than before, more certain, more alive. "You slipped from me once." A pause, like a heartbeat. "You won't again." Lysa whirls toward the fracture. "Stay away from him." A shadow steps through. Not the creature from the memory, not the boy. Something new, something formed from broken hours and unfinished seconds. It drips from the fracture like liquid time, shifting, bending light around itself. Its limbs are long, uncertain of their shape. Its face is a smear of features it can't remember how to form. Elias feels his knees buckle. The hour has become more real since he entered it, more stable, more aware. Lysa steps between him and the creature, her body flickering violently. The stillness drains her strength by the second. "You can't be here," she whispers to the creature. "You don't belong outside." The creature tilts its head in a grotesque, curious angle. When it speaks, the voice is not Elias's this time. It is dozens of voices, hundreds, layered atop one another. "We belong wherever he is." Elias flinches. "We, not I." Lysa's breath catches. "There are more trapped inside than we thought." The creature steps forward. The ground beneath it ripples as if rejecting its presence. Lisa lifts her glowing hands. "I won't let you take him." The creature pauses. Then it laughs, a horrible broken sound like gears grinding against bone. "You were taken already." Lysa stumbles. The creature continues in her own voice. "Lysa, we took you first." Elias's stomach twists. "Don't listen to it," he says, grabbing her arm. But she looks shaken, her form destabilizing, her glow dimming. The creature's voices become a whispering chorus. "She is ours. You were ours. You belong together. Come home, Elias Ward." Elias's pulse hammers. Rule 1. Do not trust what speaks with your voice. Rule 3. If it knows your name, say nothing. He clamps his jaw shut. The creature takes another step, and the frozen air cracks with strain. The people frozen in the stoppage shiver faintly, just enough to show how powerful the disturbance is. Lysa regains herself just enough to pull Elias backward. "You have to run! I won't leave you! You have to!" she cries. The creature's head whips toward Elias. "You tried running once." Elias's breath stops. Lisa squeezes his arm. "Don't let it in. Don't let it use what you saw." He forces himself to nod. The creature raises one arm, long, thin, shifting like melting glass. The tips of its fingers sharpen. Lisa pushes Elias behind her, and then something explodes through the frozen square. A blast of sound, a pulse, a chime, a single, clear note. Bong! The creature recoils, its form rippling with pain. Another chime follows, louder. Bong! The fracture behind them flickers. Lisa gasps. Harrow! The chime becomes a full cascade. All the towers of Gleamford chiming at once, sound breaking through the stillness like sunlight through a storm. Harrow storms into the square, clutching a brass device in both hands, an enormous tuning fork made of copper and etched with spirals. He slams its base against the cobblestones. The sound radiates like a wave. The creature shrieks, a sound like a child crying inside a collapsing clock. The fracture spasms. Lisa collapses to her knees, clutching her ears. Harrow shouts over the ringing, "Get back!" Elias drags Lisa behind a cluster of frozen townsfolk. The creature's form destabilizes, its limbs flickering in and out of existence as if undecided where to be. "You cannot!" it cries. Harrow slams the device again. Bong! The fracture contracts, folds in on itself, and vanishes with a violent snap. The creature flickers, losing its cohesion. Harrow slams his tuning fork a final time. The sound rips through the stillness. The creature collapses inward, folds like paper, shrinks into a thin streak of white, and shoots upward into the sky like a streak of lightning, vanishing into nothing. Silence swallows the square. Elias can't breathe. Harrow drops the tuning fork and nearly collapses beside them, panting. That, he coughs, bought us time. The world around them remains frozen, but more stable now. The stillness no longer trembles. "Harrow!" Elias gasps. What was that thing?" The old man wipes sweat from his brow, hands shaking. "That," he says hoarsely, "was a piece of the heart, a fragment of the broken hour given shape." Lisa curls inward, trembling. Her form flickers weakly. Harrow kneels beside her. "Lisa, come on, stay with us." She looks up with glassy eyes. "It's getting stronger, Harrow. It shouldn't be able to follow him into the living hours." "Then we're running out of time," Harrow says. Elias swallows. "Why did it look at me like that? Why did it say we belong together?" Harrow hesitates. Lisa answers with a pained whisper. "Because you and I were the last two taken by the hour before the fracture ended." Elias freezes. "What?" Lisa's eyes shine with fear and sorrow. "The hour held us," she says. "You escaped. I didn't. It thinks we are halves of the same lost moment." Elias's throat tightens. "Then it wants to pull me back to completed." Lisa nods weakly. Harrow forces himself upright. "We're leaving," he says. "The stillness is unstable now, too dangerous." Elias helps Lisa to her feet. She leans against him, her form flickering but solid enough to hold on to. As they move toward Harrow, Elias hears something new, a distant ticking. Slow, deep, massive. It isn't coming from the frozen clocks around them. It's coming from below, from beneath Gleamford. The heart. Harrow hears it too. His face drains of color. "Oh no!" "What?" Elias demands. Harrow grips the brass device tightly. "The heart isn't just awake, it's moving." A faint vibration shakes the street. Tick, 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 slow but building. Lisa shudders. "It's searching." "For what?" Elias asks. Harrow looks at him grimly. "For you." A cold dread settles into Elias's bones. "We're going to the shop," Harrow says. "Once the stillness lifts, we prepare for the final phase." Elias keeps an arm around Lisa, supporting her. "What final phase?" he asks. Harrow locks eyes with him. "The one where we destroy the heart." A long silence follows. The ticking below grows louder. The square trembles. "And Elias," Harrow adds softly, heavy with meaning, "you're the only one the heart will let close enough to do it." Elias swallows hard. He understands. The heart wants him. It recognizes him. It remembers the hour he lost. And because of that, because of who he once was, he is the only one who can reach its core. The knowledge settles over him like a weight too heavy to name. Lisa squeezes his hand, voice trembling. "We're not letting it take you," she whispers. "Not again," Elias nods. But deep inside, he wonders, can he destroy the thing that remembers him better than he remembers himself? And worse, what will be released when he does? The ticking from beneath the streets grows louder as Elias, Lisa, and Harrow hurry back through the frozen square. Every step feels too slow, as though the stillness is reluctant to let them move freely, even as it begins to thin. The frozen townsfolk remain statues, but Elias notices something unsettling. Their shadows shake faintly, as if trying to catch up with their bodies. Like the frozen moments are loosening, just slightly. "Hurry," Harrow mutters. "We're on borrowed seconds." The stillness fractures around them like cracking ice. Frozen lantern light jittery. Suspended leaves tremble. A child frozen mid-step wavers, as if deciding whether or not to fall. Elias clutches Lisa's hand tighter as she flickers, her edges dissolving into soft light before regaining shape. "You're fading," he whispers. "I always fade near the end of a stoppage," she says softly. "Once the living hours return fully, I won't be able to stand beside you until the next one." Her voice quivers, not with fear for herself, but for him. Elias looks at Harrow. "What happens when the stillness lifts?" Harrow grits his teeth. "The heart grows stronger. It will pull harder. If it reached this far during the stoppage, there's no telling what it can do once time moves again." The pressure in the air changes, and then the sound snaps back. The clocks start ticking all at once. The cat leaps from the roof. Water splashes into the fountain. Wind stirs the leaves again. Normal time returns. Lisa gasps, her entire form shuddering, flickering with pain. She collapses, glowing faintly. Elias catches her before she hits the ground. "Lisa, stay with me, please." She tries to smile, but the effort nearly erases her. "I'm all right. This always happens. I'll regather myself." Harrow moves quickly, placing a stabilizing coil, a thin loop of copper wire, around her wrist. The glow steadies slightly. "This will anchor you just enough to stay," he says gruffly, "but it won't last long." Lisa nods weakly. Elias lifts her carefully. "Let's get back inside." Back in the clockmaker's shop, the door slams shut behind them. Harrow bolts it and drops the heavy tuning fork on the counter, breathing hard. Elias lays Lisa on the workbench, and she slowly sits up, her glow stabilizing, but faint. The shop feels different now, tighter, heavier. The ticking of the clocks no longer soothes. It pulses like a warning. Harrow notices Elias's glance. "It's listening," he says quietly. The heart hears everything that happens above it. Elias's stomach clenches. "Then speak plainly. What are we facing?" Harrow pulls a battered book from a shelf. Its cover bears the emblem Elias saw before, the clock face split down the middle. He opens it to the first page. Words scratched in hurried writing. "The cost of holding an hour is always a life." Elias feels goosebumps crawl up his neck. "What does that mean?" Harrow places both hands on the book, steadying himself. "Time isn't meant to be trapped," he begins. "To anchor the broken hour, the founders needed a living mind connected to it. Someone who could hold it steady. Someone who could remember the hour, even when the rest of the world forgot." Lisa looks sharply at him. "Harrow, don't." But Elias doesn't look away. "You were there," he whispers. Weren't you? Harrow closes his eyes. Yes. A cold quiet fills the room. I was the anchor, Harrow says. I was the one chosen to stabilize the heart, to keep the broken hour contained. Elias's breath catches. But that means I was meant to die, Harrow says bluntly. My life for the stillness, the bargain the founders struck without fully understanding the cost. Lisa looks heartbroken. We didn't know. We were children. Harrow nods. Your parents were desperate. They thought they could save the town. Elias feels anger rise. And you went along with it? Harrow's eyes soften with something like regret carved far too deeply. I was 20 years old, foolish. I believed we could build a machine that could tame time. I believed our brilliance would save everyone. He laughs softly, a hollow, painful sound. I was wrong. What happened? Elias asks. Harrow's eyes burn into his. You happened. The room seems to tilt. What do you mean? You were the youngest caught in that hour, Harrow says, and you were unraveling inside it. If we hadn't found a way to pull you out, his voice cracks. You would have dissolved, Elias, like the others. Lisa looks away. Elias feels his chest tighten painfully. So you tried to save me? Yes, Harrow breathes. But time doesn't allow clean rescues. He swallows. When I anchored the heart, it took more than I realized. It took my years. It took my memories. It gave me a life stretched far beyond what I should have had. Elias stares at him. You should be dead, he murmurs. Harrow nods. Probably a century ago. A silence deeper than the stillness itself fills the room. Lisa reaches for Elias's hand. Her voice is fragile. He paid the price so you could live. Elias looks at Harrow, torn between horror, gratitude, and confusion. So the heart is linked to you? Yes, Harrow says, and it's dying, cracking, searching for a new anchor. The truth hits Elias like a blow. It wants me. Harrow nods. It wants someone who belongs to the broken hour, someone who slipped through the tear, someone it already remembers. Elias staggers back. No, I won't let it. You don't have a choice, Harrow says, unless we destroy it before it reaches full strength again. Lisa stands, though her form wavers. And we must act tonight, before the next stoppage. Elias looks between them. How do we destroy something? That big, that old? Harrow steps toward the trap door. There's only one way, he says. You must reach the core, the place where the hour is bound. And then, Elias asks, you unbind it. Lisa looks terrified. Harrow, that could kill him. I know, Harrow whispers, but it will kill everyone if he doesn't. Elias feels the floor sway beneath him. What will happen to you? Harrow hesitates. When the heart dies, the anchor dies with it. Lisa covers her mouth, eyes wide. Harrow, it's all right, he says softly. I've lived borrowed years. Too many. It's time. Elias shakes his head violently. No, you're not dying for me. Not again. Harrow's voice hardens. This isn't about you, boy. It's about the town. It's about Lisa. It's about the hour we broke. A long silence follows. Finally, Elias steps forward. Then I'll do it, he says quietly. But not because I owe time anything. Lisa looks at him, eyes shimmering. Then why? She whispers. He reaches for her hand, steadying her flickering form. Because I won't let the heart take you again, he says. Or me, or Harrow, or Gleamford. Harrow closes his eyes, relief and sorrow mingling across his face. Then the last descent begins, he says. He kneels at the trapdoor. The hum beneath the shop deepens, as if the heart senses what's coming. Lisa grips Elias's arm. I'll guide you, Elias nods slowly. Together, Harrow lifts the trap door, and the cold air from the underworks rushes upward, the breath of a machine waiting for its lost hour to return. The steps groan under Harrow's weight as he begins the descent, lantern held high. Cold air rushes up from the underworks, brushing past Elias like the exhale of something that has been sleeping too long. Elias follows, one hand on the rail, the other tightly wrapped around the warm, pulsing pocket watch. Behind him, Lisa descends almost soundlessly, her glow faint in the encroaching darkness. The shop above fades away as the trapdoor settles shut with a muted thud. The world narrows to stone, shadow, and the slow, distant heartbeat of the heart. For a while, the only sounds are their footsteps and the lantern's faint rattle. The wooden stairs give way to carved stone steps slick with condensation. Brass pipes thrum along the walls, shivering with every deep pulse from below. Elias clears his throat quietly. "If the heart is listening," he murmurs, "does it already know we're coming?" "It's known since, the moment you made up your mind," Harrow says without looking back. "It feels your decisions as changes in pressure." Lisa's voice is softer, floating in the narrow tunnel. "The broken hour always knew you better than you knew yourself." "That doesn't feel very reassuring," Elias mutters. "That's because it isn't," Harrow replies. They reach the bottom of the stairs and step into the main tunnel of the underworks. The hum here is louder now, no longer just vibration, but low, irregular beats that press against Elias's ribs. Last time he was here, the walls felt solid if old. Now the stone seems to flex faintly with each pulse, as though breathing. Faint white hairline cracks spread along the surface, glimmering with trapped light. Elias frowns. "That wasn't here before." "No," Harrow says. "The heart strain is spreading. These cracks are the hour trying to push its way into the world." Lisa reaches out, hovering her hand just above the stone. The light within the fissures brightens under her presence, then dims again when she snatches her hand back. "It recognizes me too," she whispers. "It recognizes all of us now," Harrow says. "Come on." They walk deeper. The tunnel opens into a smaller chamber Elias doesn't remember seeing before, circular with a domed ceiling and heavy metal rings bolted into the walls. Chains once hung there. Some still do, trailing broken links across the floor. Elias slows. "What was this?" Harrow does not meet his eyes. "An early attempt," he says. "We tried to anchor the hour with physical weight, as if iron could hold something as slippery as time." Elias studies the chains. "Did it work?" "For a moment," Harrow says. "And then the links rusted in an hour." Lisa shakes her head. "Everything you put down here aged wrong," she says softly. "Too fast, or not at all. That's why this place feels like it's been here forever, and only a day at the same time." Elias looks around. The rust is indeed strange. Patches of metal are flaking and brittle, right beside segments that shine as brightly as if they were forged this morning. They don't linger. The hum grows. The tunnels twist. The air sharpens, tinged with ozone and cold metal. The lantern flame thins, stretched as though the light itself feels reluctant to move through this space. As they walk, Elias notices something new. Faint figures in the corners of his vision. Not ghosts, not fully formed. They are like afterimages burned into the air, silhouettes leaning against walls, outlines of faces turned toward him, suggestions of hands reaching. When he looks directly at them, they vanish. Lisa sees where his gaze keeps snagging. "Don't try to focus on them," she murmurs. "Those are remnants. slivers of people the hour never fully let go of. Like you? Elias asks. Less than me, she says. More than smoke. They're what happens when you're almost remembered, he swallows. Do they know we're here? Not in a way that matters, Harrow says. They're like impressions on old paper. The ink has bled too far. The tunnel bends left, then right, then slopes downward. The air grows colder with every step. Elias's breath fogs in front of him now. He pulls his coat tighter, though the chill he feels seems to come from inside his bones more than from the air. How close are we? He asks. You'll know, Harrow says. And he does. He feels it before he sees it. The weight, the pressure, the unmistakable sense that his own heartbeat is not leading anymore. It is following. They step into the heart's chamber. Last time, Elias saw it from a distance. The towering tangle of gears and rods, the glowing crystals, the pipes and pendulums woven together like the inside of a giant clock. Back then, it had seemed massive, eerie, but distant. Now, it fills everything. The chamber is wider, or the heart has grown. The structure extends farther out, its limbs spreading along the floor like roots and hanging from the ceiling like inverted branches. Lights flicker inside glass channels, brightening and dimming with slow, irregular rhythms. Gears turn, but not smoothly, in halting, grinding motions, as though fighting against unseen resistance. And at the center of the heart, half obscured by circling arms and rods, Elias sees it. A core. A spherical mass of something that isn't quite crystal and isn't quite metal. Its surface ripples slowly, like dark glass stirred from beneath. Light pulses from within, not in a single color, but in many, overlapping, bleeding, never fully settling. Every pulse thuds through his ribs, his legs almost buckle. Lysa staggers beside him, clutching his sleeve. It's louder, she whispers. Harrow sets the lantern down on a nearby ledge. His face looks ashen in the shifting light. It's almost at full strength. The heart pulses again. Elias feels something tug at his chest, like a hand grabbing him from inside. He gasps and presses his hand over his sternum, as if he could physically push the pull away. The pocket watch in his palm flares hot, then settles, beating in its own rhythm. It feels you, Lysa murmurs. More than us. It wants you closer. And you're going to let it, Harrow says quietly. Elias looks at him sharply. Excuse me? If you fight the pull the entire time, you'll tear yourself apart before you're within 10 paces of the core, Harrow says. You have to let it draw you in, just enough. That sounds like an excellent way to die, Elias says hoarsely. It's an excellent way to get close enough to kill it, Harrow replies. Lysa shakes her head. There must be another way, a slower way, a safer way. Harrow gives her a look that is not unkind, just tired. We are out of slower ways, and there has never been a safe one. Elias stares at the core. For a moment, he sees something in its surface, shapes pressing against the glassy material from the inside. Hands, faces, eyes, a child's silhouette, a girl's profile, Lysa's profile. His throat tightens. If I destroy it, he asks quietly, what exactly happens? To you, to him, to me? Harrow seems to have expected the question. He exhales slowly. When the heart dies, he says, 3 things happen. He holds up a shaking finger. First, the broken hour is released. Time snaps back where it was forced still. Everyone it holds is finally let go. He nods to Lysa. She lowers her gaze, expression unreadable. Second, the anchor's bargain ends. The years it borrowed are taken back. Harrow's mouth twists wryly. Which is a polite way of saying I die, quickly, cleanly, if there's any justice. Elias flinches. Lysa presses her lips together. And third? Elias asks. Harrow hesitates. Lysa whispers, Tell him. We don't know, Harrow says, which is not entirely an answer. We have theories. When the broken hour is released, it could do one of two things. It could dissolve harmlessly into the river of time. Or, Elias presses, or it could try to correct itself, Harrow says, to rewrite the missing parts, to fix the story it was supposed to tell. Elias's skin goes cold. Meaning? Meaning, Harrow says carefully, it may rewind certain lives, put people back where they were when they were taken. Back, Elias repeats, mind racing. Back as in, I could become that 8-year-old again. Or be erased entirely in the attempt, Harrow says bluntly. Time doesn't always handle repair work kindly. Lisa looks stricken. Harrow, he deserves to know, Harrow says. Elias swallows hard. So if I destroy the heart, I might free you, he says to Lysa. And kill you, he says to Harrow. And either erase myself or become someone I don't remember ever being. Yes, Harrow says. Lysa takes a step closer. That's why you don't have to do it. He looks at her. You can walk away, she insists. Leave Gleamford, leave the hour. The heart will still strain, but maybe Harrow can hold it a few more years. Maybe the town can adjust. Maybe... Lysa, Harrow says gently. Stop. She falls silent. Elias looks between them. He hears the heart's pulse in his bones. He feels the weight of the town overhead. He imagines the frozen faces, the quivering shadows, the creature that stepped out of the fracture and spoke with a chorus of stolen voices. He thinks of the boy on the hill, the laugh he'd never remembered until the hour forced it into his mind. And he thinks of this. If he walks away, the heart still wants something. It will keep pulling. It will keep breaking. It might not be him next time. It might be someone else. I think, he says slowly, his voice shaking but steady, that I've already been selfish once, when I fell out of that hour and left you behind. Lisa opens her mouth to protest, but he continues. I don't remember doing it, but I live in the world where it happened, he says. I have a life because of it, a stolen one, borrowed, just like your years, Harrow. He swallows. So maybe it's time I stop pretending I don't owe anyone anything. Lysa grips his sleeve. I don't want you to disappear, she whispers. I just got you back. He manages a small, sad smile. If this works, I think you'll have me back in another way. As a child, she says, in another time, in a life you won't remember. Maybe, he says softly, but you'll remember, and that's something. She shakes her head, tears glimmering in her pale eyes. It's not the same. No, he agrees, but it might be the only way we all get to stop running from the same hour. Harrow wipes at his eyes roughly, as if dust has gotten into them. You speak like someone who remembers being older than he is. Elias huffs a weak laugh. Maybe I do. He turns to the heart. The pull intensifies instantly, like the machine recognizing that it has his full attention. The pocket watch in his palm glows brighter, resonance thrumming. Harrow moves to a small metal console built into the rock, a relic of the founder's work. He pulls a lever, twists a rusted handle, and a narrow walkway unfolds from the tangle of machinery, extending toward the core like a metal tongue. It shudders into place, unstable but solid enough. I can bring you closer, Harrow says, but only you can make the last step. Elias nods. What do I do once I'm there? He asks. Harrow points at the watch. That is your resonance, your pattern. Press it to the core and don't let go. The heart will try to swallow it, and in doing so, it will overtake its capacity. Overload. Break. That sounds like it will hurt, Elias says. Oh, it will, Harrow says, not unkindly. A lot. Lysa takes both his hands. You don't have to be brave, she says in a shaking whisper. Just be stubborn. He smiles faintly. Stubborn I can manage. She leans forward, and for the first time, he feels her lips press against his forehead. Cool, weightless, real. When this is over, she whispers, if you have to go, I'll look for you, in every hour, in every clock, in every stupid tower you decide to climb. He closes his eyes. Deal. He turns before he can change his mind. The walkway creaks under his boots as he steps onto it. Each pace is harder than the last. Not because the metal wobbles, though it does, but because the heart's pull grows stronger, thickening the air, tightening around his chest. Halfway across, his legs tremble. 3/4 across, his breath comes in harsh bursts. By the time he stands a few paces from the core, he feels as though he is moving through the densest part of the stoppage, a stillness so thick it's almost liquid. The core pulses in front of him. Images flicker in its depths. The boy version of himself, the hill, the town, Lysa laughing in sunlight, Harrow, young and unlined, hands covered in grease and hope, faces he doesn't know, faces he might have once held dear. Voices whisper. They are not cruel. They are not gentle. They are simply asking. Come back. Belong. Be ours again. He lifts the watch. His hand shakes so hard he almost drops it. Behind him, very faint, he hears Harrow shout something he can't quite catch. Lysa calls his name, her voice breaking on the final syllable. The heart's surface ripples, reaching toward him. The watch pulses once, twice. He steps the last pace and presses it to the core. The moment the pocket watch touches the core, the world stops breathing. Light erupts, violent, searing, white as the crack in the sky that opened the day Elias first arrived in Gleamford. Elias feels it before he hears it, a surge, a roar, a recoil that isn't sound, but pressure slamming into him from all directions. The core responds instantly. It does not simply brighten, it awakens. The surface ripples like disturbed water, then stretches outward, thin tendrils of light wrapping around the watch, around Elias's hand, like fingers made of liquid glass. He grits his teeth, fighting the instinct to pull away. Behind him, he hears Lysa scream his name, muffled, distant, as if coming from another world. The walkway shudders beneath his feet. The heart pulses. The tendrils tighten. Elias gasps, sharp, involuntary, because the light doesn't just wrap around his hand. It reaches through him, through his hours, through every moment he has ever lived. The real ones, the stolen ones, the forgotten ones. He feels them all, a lifetime in a single heartbeat. Being 8 years old on the hill, his mother calling him from a kitchen wooden and warm, the splash of the fountain he once fell into while racing Lysa, the day he appeared in a town that wasn't his, wrapped in a blanket older than his new parents realized, memories he had never lived, moments he had, tears he had forgotten, hours he had never finished living. He screams. The pocket watch glows so hot he can barely hold it, but he cannot let go. Lysa's voice cuts through the roar. Elias, Elias, you have to fight it. Don't let it pull you in. He tries. He fights. But the heart is not a machine trying to consume him. It is an hour, a memory, a home, a trap. The core expands. A shape forms in its surface. A face, his face, younger, smiling, calling to him in a voice he once had. Come back, the boy whispers. Come finish our hour. Elias squeezes his eyes shut. No. The word is soft, but it echoes like thunder through the chamber. The heart recoils, and then pushes harder. A second face appears. Lisa's face. Not the pale, fractured Lisa beside him now, but the girl she used to be, warm, alive, laughing beside the clock tower steps. Don't leave me again, she whispers. Elias feels something inside him tear. Stop, he gasps. Please, stop. But the heart is not listening. It is not evil. It is not good. It is simply broken. A machine built to cage something that didn't want to be caged. A prison holding memories that were never meant to be frozen. The tendrils tighten further. Elias's legs buckle, and he collapses onto one knee. The walkway clangs under the impact. Harrow shouts from behind him, "Hold on! Elias, listen to me! Hold!" His voice breaks into a cough. Elias forces his head to turn. Harrow is standing at the edge of the walkway, hands shaking violently, blood dripping from his nose. The anchor bond is breaking. "No," Elias whispers, panic cutting through the pain. "Harrow, stay back!" Harrow staggers, gripping the rail. "I can help," he coughs again, spitting red. Let me take some of it." "No," Elias shouts. "If you come closer, it'll kill you." Harrow shakes his head, eyes wide, desperate. "You don't understand. This is what I've been for. This is why I'm alive at all." His voice cracks. "Let me do one thing right." And before Elias can stop him, Harrow steps onto the walkway. It groans under the weight of two people against the heart's pull. Lisa cries out, reaching toward him, her form flickering violently. "Harrow, no, don't, please." But Harrow keeps walking. The heart senses him immediately. The tendrils of light swirl, shift, focus. Elias tries to pull away from the core, but the heart holds him fast, wrapped around his hand, his mind, the fragments of his timelines. "Harrow!" Elias shouts. "You'll die!" "I should have died a century ago," Harrow says, and he places his hand on Elias's back, just long enough. The pain changes. The pull shifts. For a moment, Elias feels the pressure ease, just slightly, as Harrow takes on part of the anchor burden again. Harrow collapses to one knee beside him, panting. Elias grabs his shoulder. "What are you doing?" Harrow smiles weakly. "Buying you time, my boy." The core lashes out. A tendril of light wraps around Harrow's wrist, another around his chest. Harrow's spine arches. Light pours from his eyes. His voice cracks into a sound Elias never wants to hear again. Lisa screams. She tries to rush forward, but her form flickers, glitches, the living hour pushing her out. "Elias, stop it! Please, do something!" Elias turns back to the core, rage and grief breaking inside him like a shattered clock. He presses the pocket watch harder against the surface. The heart screams. The chamber shakes. The metal arms thrash like a wounded animal. The tendrils tighten around Elias. His vision fractures, darkens at the edges. He feels minutes tearing inside him, moments unraveling, memories splitting apart. "Elias," Harrow rasps beside him, barely conscious. Remember the truth." "The truth?" Elias gasps. Harrow nods weakly. "You weren't meant to die in that hour." A ragged cough. "You were meant to live beyond it." Lisa sobs from behind them. "Elias, please, finish it, before it takes you both." He closes his eyes, pushes through the pain, through the memories, through the whispers, and he remembers something, not given by the heart, but his own. A moment on the hill, the sun, the laughter, a promise he once made to Lisa. "I won't leave you, He opens his eyes. Let me go! The watch pulses, once, twice, 3 times, and the heart breaks. The core cracks down the middle. Light explodes outward, swallowing the chamber. The walkway disintegrates beneath them. Elias feels himself falling, light ripping through his bones, Harrow's hand slipping from his back. Lysa screaming somewhere above. The world collapses, not into darkness, but into blinding, shattering white. White, endless, weightless white. Elias floats through it as though he has no body, no breath, no heartbeat, only drifting, gentle, slow, peaceful, like a leaf on still water. No sound, no fear, no pull. The heart has stopped. He knows that the way someone knows a truth in a dream, without question, without proof. Something distant flickers at the edge of his awareness. A warm glow, a familiar presence. Lysa. He feels her before he sees her. Soft, like the memory of laughter through sunshine. Then, like the light deciding to take shape, she appears beside him. Whole, warm, beautiful in a way that feels both new and ancient. Not the flickering remnant she was. Not the ghost of an hour. Alive. Elias, she whispers, voice full of emotion he cannot name. He tries to reach for her. His hand moves, but it glows faintly, almost transparent, as though he is only partly real. She touches his fingers, and warmth floods him. You did it, she says softly. You freed the hour. Elias tries to speak, but his voice is soft, small. Is it over? Yes, Lysa murmurs. The broken hour has dissolved. It's finally part of time again. He feels relief wash over him like a tide. Then something else, a question, a fear. Harrow? He asks quietly. Lysa lowers her gaze. A warm tear falls onto his glowing hand. He's gone, she says. He gave everything he had, and he made his choice. Elias nods slowly. It hurts, an ache like a bruise along his ribs. But it is not sharp. It is not cruel. Harrow had lived 100 years on borrowed time, and in the end, he had given those years back to save them. The white begins to dim. Light folds into shadow, and shadow into shape. Floor beneath him, air returning, the hum of the world realigning. He opens his eyes. Gleamford, dawn. Elias lies on soft earth. Early light paints the world in soft gold. The air smells of dew and chimney smoke. He sits up slowly. He is on the hill. The same hill he saw in the lost hour. The same hill where the boy version of himself once stood. Below, Gleamford stretches out. Quiet, whole, unbroken. Time moves. Birds glide. Smoke curls. Children run in the square. Alive. He stands brushing earth from his trousers. Something glimmers on the ground beside him. Harrow's brass tuning fork. Bent. Cracked. Still warm. Elias kneels beside it and rests his hand on the cool metal. Thank you, he murmurs. The wind seems to nod. A soft step sounds behind him. He turns. Lysa stands there, alive, not shimmering, not fading, not flickering. Her eyes no longer pale with the glow of the stillness. Instead, they shine warm and bright, deep and full of life. She smiles, a little uncertain, a little shy, like someone learning how to smile again. You made it, she says. So did you, Elias whispers. And then they are hugging, her arms warm and solid around him, his breath catching against her shoulder. He feels her heartbeat for the first time. She pulls back slowly. You remember me. I remember you, he says. But not everything. She nods. That's how it should be. He frowns slightly. Will I remember the hour? Maybe, she says softly. Or maybe it will fade like a dream. Her voice warms. But what matters is that you remember who you are now. He smiles, because he does. For a long moment, they stand in the morning quiet. watching the town breathe. Then Elias notices something on the horizon. A tree. An old, twisted one he does not recognize from the modern town. Hanging from one of its branches, a wooden bird carved by a child's hands. His breath catches. "I thought that was gone," he whispers. "It was," Lysa says. "But the hour set some things right, not all, just what mattered." He walks to the tree with slow, reverent steps. Lysa follows beside him. He lifts the bird gently from the branch. It is the same one the boy carried, rough, imperfect, lovingly made. He turns it over and sees small initials carved at the bottom. E.W. He swallows. Lisa touches his arm. "You don't need to remember the hour to know who you are." He nods. Below them, atop the town hall, a clock tower rings softly. One chime. Clear, steady. Not 03:12. Not frozen, not broken. Just time, real time, flowing. Lysa looks out at the town. "What will you do now?" Elias exhales slowly. "I'm not sure," he admits. "Stay, maybe. Help rebuild. Learn the hours I never got to live." "And climb a few towers," she says, smiling. "Probably," he laughs. She bumps his shoulder gently. "I'll race you," she says. He grins. "You'll lose." "You always said that," she teases. "And you always did." They start down the hill. The wind picks up. Leaves dance. The town glows with the first full sunrise it's had in a century. Elias pauses at the crest of the hill. Something flickers at the corner of his eye. Not a ghost, not a shadow, not the stillness, but Harrow, young, laughing, wiping grease from his hands, standing at a workbench that hasn't existed in decades. A memory, a blessing. Elias nods to him softly. The image smiles and fades like breath in cold air. Lysa waits at the bottom of the hill. She holds out her hand, her real, warm, living hand. Elias walks toward her, and together they step into a town no longer weighed down by a broken hour, a town finally free to breathe, as the clocks ring the beginning of a new day.